On this episode of Southern Fried Geekery.
Missouri is part of Arkansas, Craig. Get over it.
I'm not calling myself Arkansaurian.
I'm going with it. That's our new we're Arkansaurians.
Stop trying to make it a thing.
That's definitely the time.
That sounds like an STD.
Got a bad case of Arkansaurians.
Arkansarians.
Can I take penicillin for that?
So last week we were talking about we really needed more money,
Yes,
gear and stuff, and I mean making money is awesome anyway. So this is gonna sound crazy, but bear with me. The First Church of Southern Fried Geekery. You're an ordained minister.
I am an ordained minister.
Craig shit is on his way.
Yeah, it is on the way.
Really? Did you get ordained?
As a Jedi.
That's so you're a Jedi priest now.
I am.
Y'all,
My shit will be here in the next few days, and then I'm going to get with Ronnie, and Ronnie's going to get me the local minister license.
You were in that conversation too. I guess you just didn't.
He wasn't paying attention.
Really busy.
No, I was following it. I didn't comment much, but I followed it.
I didn't understand what he meant by the numbers at first, but finally it dawned on me. And
I'm
really
the X-23.
I don't know. I mean, if that number's still available when I order my book or order my stuff, and it gives me the book and page number.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of amazing.
I mean, there are worse things to throw money at, right?
I don't know that I'll ever ordain anybody, I'll ever marry anybody, but to have the fucking certificate hanging in my nerd room, I mean, that's...
Well, now you can save a little more money on your daughters.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
luckily I don't have to pay Caleb.
That's true. Yeah, I'm doing it for free.
Flowers are still found in the forest.
Well, hey, you guys want to do a podcast 2 days early?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Caleb and I are getting lit.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As per usual, I'm still Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
I'm Sean.
And I changed it back to Jerry. I'm no longer the artist formerly known as Jerry. How are you guys doing this week?
You're not allowed to make Prince references.
I did last week, and you did not stop me.
No, you haven't earned it.
He wasn't paying attention.
What?
You never listened to me.
I tried not to.
You have to wear a lot more purple.
Shit.
To
That's
make Prince
true.
Damn, I
references.
didn't wear my purple shirt to work. Sorry.
Well, anyway, no, you're not a Prince reference. You're just Jerry. And you know what? And that's okay. It's okay to be just Jerry. But if you're joining us, this is not your first time listening to us. We thank you for coming back. If this is your first time listening to us, welcome. We're glad you tuned in.
You're going to tell them to go the fuck away.
No, I'm actually...
Get off our yard.
No, I'm going to apologize. I feel like I need to make an apology. You know who I need to make an apology to?
Who?
Everyone who has stuck around and listened to us. Because I'm the guy who edits our podcast, and up until hopefully now... Let's be honest, our audio quality has been lacking. There's been something it's not great, but I think we finally got that figured out now. We've got some kick-ass equipment. I actually know how to use the technological button board that's in front of me because I don't really know what it's called, so we're going to call it a button board. And I think we're going to be okay.
And
there's only 2 buttons on the whole fucking board.
But there's not.
And from here on out, if Caleb does his editing right, the rest of this will be an auto-tune. So,
no.
Ready? We're going to cue that up. And
we're all going to sound like female robots.
You just committed musical abomination. You referenced Prince and then followed it with an auto-tune.
This is why it's not allowed to reference.
This is why he doesn't get to say things. Well, hey, everybody. Again, I want to apologize because I know last week's audio sucked. I want to admit that. That's completely on me. I'm sorry to my fellow co-hosts because they deserve better, and I'm going to make it a valid attempt to give them better. So if you know us, then you know that we're not just here in your ear holes. We're also on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitter. And we're also on YouTube. I'm going to flip Jerry off because he's trying to smart off. So that just happened in real time, and you guys got to experience that.
I'm just saying that we didn't split up the news before we started the podcast.
3-man podcast.
Edit it out.
Podcast.
Keep going.
The dream can be realized.
For fuck's sake, Jerry.
Go on. Let's keep it rolling.
Okay, yeah, we're still going. We're also on...
He had it perfectly back in. You're going to make him drink faster and more wine.
Perfect.
And then he's going to get violent. And all I'm going to do is laugh
I'm
and
finally
illustrate
coming
it
off
for
of
him.
my margaritas, so it only makes sense that somebody's getting in their groove.
I'm gonna stab you in the neck with a fucking wine glass for this night.
Because he's tattooed, and we know that tattoo makes people murderers and snorting cocaine.
And when he does, it's going to be my illustration of the day. It's just him stabbing Jerry in the neck.
Can I request that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll request that.
I'm need you to hold that pose for a while, though, while I draw it out.
All right.
We derailed quickly.
We
today.
did. You know what? I'm not even gonna kick most of this out because this was fun. I love talking about murdering Jerry. But when we're not talking about murdering Jerry, we're also present on things like Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. It's again kind of pointless to say on here, but we also have our YouTube channel where we post all the stuff you're listening to, so you can go check us out there. Or you can just email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com, and we'll chat. We'll talk. We'll do things. We'll communicate like real people. Full disclosure, we are actually recording on a Friday night, which is unusual for us. Normally, we record on Sunday mornings, so you're not going to get the news that might happen over the weekend, but we're recording at night, and I'm getting to drink wine, so it's pretty fucking amazing. So how has your week's been, gentlemen?
It's been all right. It's been it's been a long week, but I'm glad it's Friday, and I'm glad to be here with you guys recording our podcast.
Jerry's giving thumbs up because you can hear that on the podcast.
I was giving thumbs up to you guys.
To us?
My week has been... let's just say that I took off an hour early today so I could go and drink a couple margaritas.
That's healthy.
Yeah. It's been a week.
I like margaritas.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You remember on the last episode where I mentioned how I haven't been able to post a lot of news because I've been without internet at the home?
Right.
And that was supposed to be fixed to a Wednesday. So we are now still on Friday. Now it's supposed to be tomorrow.
Oh, for
Saturday.
fuck's sake.
So still without the internet.
Did you order your Amish starter pack yet?
Fuck you, Jerry.
Damn it, I got you a lantern for your birthday.
I appreciate that. Beyond that, it's been good. I've had some really fun requests, which we'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah, man.
And besides being Amish,
Jerry's taking off his clothes too, just for those of you.
I will not illustrate that for any reviewers out there.
I'm not doing that. Well, even though you've been without internet, which does suck because it's hard to do anything without the net these days. Every once in a while, it's kind of nice to unplug and not have that distraction. I would think.
No,
just not. I was trying to.
I miss you too.
You do follow a lot of YouTubers.
I follow a lot of YouTubers.
Yeah, you do. Well, so speaking of which, let's talk about some of this news that you speak of, because a lot has happened. It's been just a few days since we've been around. But I actually want to talk about something that we didn't get to last time, and mainly we didn't talk about it because I think we've already spoken about it before. The Marvel Fox acquisition. It's going through. The Fox, I guess you would say, shareholders voted to allow it, to accept it. We all know the Marvel shareholders weren't going to say no. So that merger is going forth, and Marvel, is absorbing Fox, which owns things like the rights to the Fantastic Four in film and the rights to all kinds of X-Men, all kinds of stuff.
Basically anything that falls under the category of mutant film, for sure.
Yeah.
And
well, I think they own the word mutant. I mean, they've done Deadpool. That's largely been their only real success in the film. But I was just going to, since it's going through, I was going to bring that up for kind of a roundtable and see what you guys thought about that, how you felt, if your opinion has changed on it. Just kind of how you feel about this mega merger and this thing that rocked the corporate world.
So I'm super excited for all of that to be back in Marvel's hands for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know how super excited I am that Disney just keeps buying things up. From a personal standpoint, I think it limits other future projects because it all starts falling under the same overhead banner. But I am really excited about the acquisition of Marvel getting back their properties.
I mean, I get the concern a lot of people do when someone monopolizes, a major product like that. Personally, though, especially since Disney bought Marvel,
right?
I've enjoyed almost everything they put out.
Yeah.
So them acquiring more of these, I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
It can only help the X-Men franchise. It sure as shit can only help the Fantastic Four franchise.
Yeah, for sure.
My only concern is Deadpool. Now, Disney's willing to take risks. They've done some stuff that we haven't seen expected, but it's kind of hard with just knowing how much Marvel is owned by Disney publicly to see the hard R rating still going through, but they may surprise us.
Yeah, they because they haven't really shown any interest in doing hard Rs, right?
Top of my head, without research, I can't think of a single like R-rated movie that has been under a Disney banner. No, that's hard to say because Disney owns a lot of companies, so you never know. They may.
They also haven't played with any characters that deserve or would require a hard R. In my opinion,
not in the movies anyway, but Netflix has definitely touched on some more adult stuff.
But Sean hit on it. Disney owns a lot of properties, and the Marvel banner, even though it's owned by Disney, is not a Disney company like Lucasfilms. Is not a Disney company. It's not produced by Disney. They are paying for it, and it belongs to them, and they get all the money from it. But it's it's under its own banner. So I think that they will be fine allowing hard R movies if they're required.
I think so, especially when they've seen successes of things like Deadpool.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is whenever the first Deadpool movie came out, and I think you and I talked about it after we saw it, but I don't feel that Disney would have let that movie happen, but it was kind of nice that it already happened and gained its success because now I don't think that they'll really change it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully, like I said, Disney's not dumb. They're rich and buying everything for a reason. I think they know what's successful. They know what works. They have their standards, of course, but I think, don't get me wrong, people are going to bitch about anything that's related to Disney anyway. But so I think they're going to probably continue on. I was also kind of happy to hear because I heard some concerns with the Dark Phoenix movie and the New Mutants movies and their status. They're already being pushed back. That's a whole other issue. But with now the Disney acquisition, they have confirmed that these movies are being put out when they're the newest release dates because they've both been pushed.
Okay, so they're still going through.
They're still going through. It's the last time Fox will be solely doing like their mutant movies.
Yeah, I mean, you got movies in the can that are just getting some minor tweaks and stuff to them. They're not going to scrap those movies when they've already paid for them. And, I'm just looking forward to... I bet we see some X-Men, some mutants show up shortly after the next Avengers movie.
Oh, I think some post-credit scenes are being filmed right now.
Probably, yeah. I would imagine so.
I feel with that closing in and it coming out in 2019 that they've probably already got...
I think the deal officially is 100% done in the beginning of 19.
Yeah.
So they probably... they might film in advance, who knows, but... Depending on, the actors they're picking, if they're keeping any, and all that's going to be very interesting to find out.
So I kind of want to echo Craig's sentiment on this just real quick. The nerd part of me is very excited because I want quality films with characters like the X-Men and characters like the Fantastic Four and everything else they own. But that's the nerd side of me. And I know there's going to be some blowback on the comics, and maybe in a good way. Blowback's probably not the right word to use. But on the corporate side of things, there's going to be a lot of people who are losing their jobs now. There's going to be a lot of people out of work. There's one less company making film, and I don't know that it's a good thing to, when you're drawing all of your water out of the same well, what happens when the well gets poisoned? That kind of thing. That bothers me. So
again, though, I don't think that. Yes, it's all coming. The money backing these things is all coming from the same place, which is a very deep fucking well. But there's still going to be. It'll be a different banner. It's not Disney. I think we have to understand that. Right. Like Buena Vista is a Disney product,
right? But
it's not a Disney movie. If you watch a Buena Vista movie, it's not a. So I think that you're still going to have these production companies. You're still going to have a Fox production company.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're still going to have their own.
And you're still going to have people that are going to work from them. But I agree with you that you now have one company slowly buying all of these. At some point, they're going to have to step in and not allow these to all happen.
We're getting close to a monopoly at this point, and I don't know that that's a good thing.
Them and Warner Brothers.
What I'm hoping also comes out of this is now that all of Marvel is going to be under their one banner, maybe other movie companies are going to start looking to other comic books. We're going to get other adaptations of lesser-known books and part of the big three or big two. Hopefully, Image will find somebody who can just start really pushing out some of their products.
You just want a Savage Dragon movie.
Well, fuck yes, I want a Savage Dragon product.
I'm super hyped about any reboot of X-Men and just all this stuff. Doctor Doom being in the main MCU and everything like that. You did talk about them doing Monopoly, though, and wasn't part of that whole merger was Fox had to give their sports rights up because...
Well, no, Fox did not give up their sports rights. Fox actually retained their...
Yeah.
What they sold is Fox Studios, like 21st Century Fox. What they sold is the film side of that. Fox still owns
all of their TV
Fox
shows.
Sports. Well, and because Disney owns ABC, and Disney also owns ESPN.
Yeah.
So it was technically illegal for them to absorb things like Fox Sports or even Fox News to go there. Which I wouldn't be sad if Fox News died. State propaganda and all that stuff. So, but that's just my personal opinion.
I'm hoping that we somehow get Wolverine in the Avengers movie somehow, because Avengers without Wolverine, I know
he needs some sidekicks, Craig. Yeah,
I know Sean's looking at me like
Next
trying to
X-Men
kill me
movie's
right
gonna be
now.
Wolverine and his X-Men.
Wolverine and the Avengers.
Hey, Wolverine and the X-Men was a great cartoon.
Wolverine and the Marvel Universe as his sidekicks. We all know that's what's going to happen.
Unfortunately, it's possible.
I actually remember though I think they called the New Avengers run, where he was part of that team.
Yeah.
And he was on every single cover. And he didn't appear till issue 3.
Oh, God. What was also great about that was Luke Cage being on that team. He made that team.
Well, all right. Well, I'm glad we've kind of rehashed this. I was curious to know what you guys thought about it. And I'm sure other people were as well. So let's jump into honestly, the only other movie thing that I personally have on my list. Warner Bros. Did announce that they are developing a new film, and it's something that we haven't seen before in the all kinds of, I think on there, like I said, Crypto was on there. I want to say Streaky the Super Cat was on there. And just really old school nods. And of course, never go into the comment section because everybody's, never go into the comment section. I'm actually really pumped about this. And I would love to see these Super Pets, man.
Is the DC movies, are they just throwing spaghetti at the wall at this point?
I mean, possibly, but this...
Spaghetti's delicious, Jared.
It is. Darts. Are they throwing darts at the wall? Darts aren't delicious, Sean. Don't eat darts.
Don't judge my lifestyle.
I mean, possibly, but this would also be indicative of the fact that they know they need to go in a new direction, that Dark and Gritty is not doing it for them.
Yeah.
Teen Titans Go was such a fun movie that
You're down?
I'm down for this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. I mean, and that Shazam trailer alone has given me hope in the DC universe.
Yeah.
At least that they're willing to kind of try different. Throwing spaghetti at the wall. I'm fine with that at this point because everything else thrown at the wall has been turds. I don't like loose on the wall.
It wasn't done yet. That was mal dente shit. We're going to get some fully cooked shit now.
So what we're expecting out of this, I guess, is probably like a CG animated movie.
My guess. Maybe heavy CG mixed in with live action, like Alvin and Chipmunks kind of thing.
I would be totally fine
CG,
if
I'll be down with that.
Yeah.
Or I'd be fine with just doing a cartoon version. Just doing it like Teen Titans Go and making it funny like that.
So the image that they put out was a cartoon version.
Right.
And so I don't know if it's going to be an animated film. And maybe I need to look deeper into this because there's probably a website that says, hey, this is totally going to be an animated film. And people at home are like, okay, we'll go read. But you know what? No, I'm busy. So I'm looking at taglines. But I think this is going to be awesome.
It just seems like nowadays it's kind of hard to get a 2D animated movie out there because most, even DreamWorks, Pixar, and all those, like Disney, most of their movies that they're putting out are like the CG movies. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Teen Titans did really great, and it was 2D animation.
I hope this actually pushes because DC though has been big on the 2D animated home video releases. And most of them, with a few hit and misses, have been quality. And I want theatrical quality. I would love to see the return of 2D animation. I mean, I love a good CG movie, but my heart and soul has been in 2D animation.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we're getting Spider-Verse too, so which is a 2D animated. Is it 3?
Spider-Verse is CG.
It's called a cell shading, where it's CG, but it's stylized to look 2D.
Okay.
I'm going the opposite way. I don't even want it to be animated. I want live action. I mean, I grew up with movies like Homeward Bound and movies like Milo and Otis. And if you watch them now, they don't necessarily hold up.
That's why you're sad. Both of those movies you just mentioned.
He's going with an underdog / Bill Ray Garfield.
I grew up with Old Yeller.
We can throw Old Yeller into that.
I know. It's like, man,
I love them.
Those are rad movies, right? Those are freaking awesome. Where the red fern grows, even those animals didn't talk. But I mean, if we're going to talk about tearjerkers.
Indeed.
But no, I grew up with movies like Homeward Bound, where you had live action, but the pets talked. They were animated. They had personalities, and they pulled it off amazing. Imagine Homeward Bound feels in a film now with what they can do.
Could you make Milo fly?
I would totally make Milo fly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're going 2D fields. We're going Plague Dogs.
No.
But part of my reservation for that is, they just had that movie, The Life of a Dog or something like that, or
A Dog's Life.
Dog's Life,
yeah.
and that got a lot of lashback because of some of the stuff that they did.
Oh yeah, they treated I don't know. I didn't watch it and didn't see anything, but apparently they put a dog in actual danger or something.
Well,
From what I understand,
Treat your animals good, people.
Everything is very tricky when you do live action animals and big adventure movies.
they're not people. They don't actually listen to what you say.
I wonder if they got in trouble on Lord of the Rings when they shot that elephant and it died.
Damn.
It still only counts as one.
Craig,
Still
I
only
don't
counts as
know.
one.
I'm meaning to tell you this for years, but that was not real life.
Lord of the Rings isn't real, Jerry.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Never change. Never change. Any of you. I love you all. All right, so let's get on to some comics news. How about that?
Yeah, so what do you guys get when you mix punk rock creators with digital writers collective?
I mean, I already know the answer, but go ahead and tell me anyway.
Yeah, you get a Circle Pit Press.
Fuck yeah, you do.
Yeah, and it's got Matt Miner, Marie Inger, Jonathan Brandon Sawyer, Ray Nadine, J.B. Rowe, and our friend Kelly Williams.
Yeah, man, I saw that I saw Kelly's post today, and that was freaking rad.
Yeah, it's I'm pretty excited about it.
Again, didn't have a chance to actually read much into it. Do you know what it is? Is this just kind of like a writer's workshop thing?
No, they're actually going to do comics. And, I mean, it only had a couple of paragraphs, but basically it's just like-minded comic creators getting together and they're going to do some comics.
Badass. Well, and I know I saw Kelly's tweet earlier today when I was taking a break at work, and he was saying, hey, we're publishing our own stuff and it's kind of a collective thing, but don't send us comics.
Yeah.
They're not soliciting independent.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you go get buddy with them, they'll pull you into the fold, but they're not asking people to send them other stuff. I think it's a way to circle through themselves and write themselves up.
Maybe at least get their original creation on the ground before they start looking for outside.
Well,
for sure,
creative teams.
And I have some of Kelly's art hanging in my office, and it's some of my favorite art is the art I've got from him, and he's amazing. So I want to see him make it big. My big pull with Marvel. Listen to me, Marvel. Hire Kelly Williams to do Man Thing for you. Yeah.
A quick question, since you guys are much more of the metalhead. Circle Pit Press, did they miss the opportunity for Mosh Pit Press?
Well, Circle Pit's what they call mosh pits now.
See, I'm so old, I don't know these things.
Yeah, it's a mosh pit, and it opens, and they go in a circle. So
back before Limp Bizkit invited flat brim hat wearing, polo shirt donning douchebags into the metal community. No offense if you wear flat brim hats.
There you go, those 2.5 listeners.
But since Fred Durst invited
Matt just hung up.
Damn. Mosh pits weren't about hurting people. Mosh pits it was slam dancing. You're bouncing back and forth. You were getting the whirlpool going, and it was really, really fun and really cool. And then, in my unprofessional opinion, Limp Bizkit happened, and this whole side core version of frat boy douchebags jumped in, and they're actually looking to start fights in mosh pits now.
Right.
They're looking to throw punches, and they're looking to make people bleed, and that's not what it's about, man. That's I've seen bands stop playing and just point people out.
Fists down when you're in a pit.
It's not about that life. I've seen like Korn. I was at a Korn show one time. They fucking stopped. They said, "Hey, no, y'all need to come get this bitch and get him out. Get this motherfucker out of my pit."
Right. We saw that at a Shinedown concert.
Yeah.
He stopped the fucking concert. He's like, "We're up here trying to entertain you, and you're just being an asshole."
That hard hitting Shinedown.
Yeah, right.
Remember the good old days when it would just be Axl Rose jumping on a photographer in the crowd.
Those were great days.
Have you guys ever listened to Bury Your Dead?
Yes.
So they have this thing called the Wall of Death, right?
Uh-huh.
Where they split it. I was actually at a concert, one of their concerts at Edgefest years ago, and they did that, and there was one girl that was in the middle that didn't know what was going on, and she was just having a good time, and I'm like, oh no, you need about to die.
In my mind, I thought the story was going to where you were caught in the middle, hey, where does everyone go?
What happened? Oh no! That's the exact opposite of what I wanted.
That's great.
But yeah, so that's the thing. But no, dude, I'm proud of Kelly as a fellow Arkansauran. Yeah. That's what we're going to call ourselves now. We're Arkansaurians. So
I think he's actually Southwest Missouri, but
is he? No, he lives in state.
Does he?
Yeah, as a friend of ours and someone who actually lives within the confines of our little weird state. I'm proud of the dude, man. He's going places, he's doing things, and it's pretty rad.
Missouri is part of Arkansas, Craig. Get over it.
I'm not calling myself Arkansaurian.
I'm going with it. We're Arkansaurians.
Stop trying to make it a thing.
That's definitely
It'll never
That
happen.
sounds like an STD.
I got a bad case of Arkansaurians.
Arkansauриans.
Can I take penicillin for that?
Arkansaurian penicillin.
So, Jeff Lemire has a new series coming out because he's not writing enough things right now.
Right.
Image announced this week, actually, what was it? Was it yesterday?
Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah, yesterday, that they were coming out with a new series called Family Tree. And it's Jeff Lemire and Phil Hester.
Yes.
And it sounds pretty fucking interesting. The synopsis goes... When an 8-year-old girl literally begins to transform into a tree, her single mom, troubled brother, and possibly insane grandfather embark on a bizarre and heart-wrenching odyssey across the backroads of America, desperately searching for a way to cure for a way to cure her transforming before it's too late. Well, they added a lot of twos in here.
We were really good.
Well, it said way to cure to her horrifying transformation. But the further they get from home and the closer the girl gets to completely losing her humanity, the more external forces threaten to tear the family apart as fanatical cults, mercenaries, and tabloid paparazzi close in, determined to destroy the girl or use her for themselves. A new genre-defying ongoing series, The Family Tree, will combine mystery, action, and Cronenbergian body horror into an epic story about the lengths a mother will go to keep her children safe in the face of an increasingly unstable world and unspeakable horrors.
Sounds like Jeff Lemire's writing Why the Last Man Standing. Except for the tree girl.
I mean, that honestly sounds a lot like sort of almost the premise of Sweet Tooth to me.
Sweet Tooth was a little different.
Yeah, I know, but like kind of apocalyptic and people transforming and stuff.
Cronenberg monsters.
Cronenbergian was the only thing. That was the big thing that I got out of it.
So if you guys haven't seen Phil Hester's art before, he's amazing.
You beat me to it, Craig.
Yeah, his art is some of my favorite art out there.
Phil Hester. I mean, when you're doing a book with Jeff Lemire, it's really hard to not have Jeff Lemire be the draw for that book. For me, he's not. For me, the draw for this book is Phil Hester. If you've never read Mythic, go read Mythic. That is an amazing series that Phil Hester did. It's one of my favorite runs. I've got all the issues. I want to have it bound because they never did a hardcover. Love that book. It's really, really solid.
Yeah.
And it's a safe bet that Jeff Lemire is going to make us cry multiple times in this series whenever it's dealing with family and,
yeah. Yeah. Oh.
you already can feel it.
Royal City.
From your future self is sending the anguish
I'm
back.
still feeling the pain from Royal City's last issue.
Didn't read that.
I need to get caught.
Oh, it's so good. It's still going.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's so good.
Oh, you meant like just the past
the
issue,
last issue,
not the last issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah, no, I probably could have said that then.
My ignorance abounds from time to time. So, one little last bit, or at least possibly one little last bit. You remember a while back, DC did those Walmart 100-page giants?
Yeah.
They actually did really well. I haven't seen the numbers, but I haven't heard anything bad about them. And they did well enough that they're actually going to be on like ongoing things, ongoing series, which I know that was a test run. Apparently the test run works. So DC and Walmart just put out the covers to those series. And it's going to be the same series. It's going to be Batman, Superman, Teen Titans, and what was the last one? My mind went.
They did Justice League.
Justice League, yeah. Forgive me. And you're getting the number 2s of all those, which means I think 11 pages of new content and then reprints of older content that they've done a while back. But you're getting 100 pages for $5, and they're putting it in Walmart. So kind of what I wanted to ask you guys is, now that we know that the first one's worked and worked well enough to get a second series, would you change anything about it? What do you guys think about how people reacted to that? And is there anything that you would do differently, or you think Walmart should do differently to maybe promote it more or get it into the hands of people easier?
As far as this, what DC's putting out, I mean, it's basically like we praise Image for their trade paperbacks at $10 for the first trade.
Yeah.
DC's giving you almost the equivalent. While granted, it's not just one continuous story, but that trade paperback size book for $5.
Yeah, it's easily three comics for $5.
Right. I mean, and I mean, at our local Walmart where I picked up my Teen Titans one, it's not necessarily right there on the register racks where all the magazines sit.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, for collectors, that's a little bit better. But it is right there at ours by the collector cards, Pokemon cards, and like little knickknacks like that are right near checkouts.
Yeah, I was going to say they kind of put it in Nerd World.
Yeah, it's a decent spot to put it in there. I mean, of course, we would say like right off the rack would be great just because, a kid's going to tear it up anyway, but at least we can get it in their hands.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic deal they're doing.
Right.
I mean, for $5.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, damn near a regular issue, average comic book is $3.99. So I think it's a good thing. I would love to actually see them start doing even, spread out even more. Putting out more because, like I said, it's reprints with just an original story in there also. They can do more.
My thing was how well were they stocked?
When I went and picked up, which you could tell some were bought, they had about 2 or 3 copies of each one.
Okay.
I mean, it's a pretty big standing box, the display box they keep them in. I would guess there's probably 2 or 3 of each volume.
That was the biggest thing for me because I know Walmart, like a lot of retail stores like it, fall prey to scalpers a lot of the time that will go and just buy it all up. So if they're putting them out with enough stock in mind, I think it's a really good thing to get people into comics more.
So here's what I think they should do because of what happened with the scarcity of the product last time, because collectors are going to collect and you can put them out there for kids to get them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I went and bought a set. Sean went and found the one he wanted and bought it. I'm pretty sure Caleb went and found some and bought them.
Yep.
Collectors are going to collect. So sell them at the local comic book store as well as Walmart. That way there's plenty there for the kids to get their hands on. That's my take on it. Leave it in both places because you don't have your normal comic books at Walmart. You're still getting them in the hands of children, which is the point of this. But you're getting them in the hands of children, and the collectors are still able to buy them.
So the collectors can get them from the comic book store, and the kids can get them from Walmart. You don't really.
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the brainchild behind this, but
I 100% see your point, but I actually think I think that Walmart did something really smart in this, and they staggered how they put them out. So this wasn't like we print these one time, New Comic Book Day. We're only shipping these for New Comic Book Day and whatever. Walmart shipped out a certain number for week 1. And of course, collectors, scalpers, whatever you want to call them, they ran and they snatched all those up. The next week they sent more. The next week they sent more. So I didn't go pick them up the first week because when I went to look for them, I couldn't find them. They were just gone.
Yeah.
2 weeks after that, like Sean said, there's 2 or 3 on the shelf. So it's still a first printing, still the first edition.
Yeah.
And they just staggered the way they ship them out because when it didn't when I know for the first couple of days you could go on eBay and people were selling them for a stupid amount of money. 3 or 4 days passed and that money dropped. Like people realized that these weren't these weren't the investment that I think that they thought they might be in the first few days. And so after that amount of time when they shipped the second round and the third round of stuff, now you can get them. Now they're right there.
Yeah.
Teen Titans is still the collector's.
It is.
Because it's got first appearance of Roundhouse in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sean loves that guy.
Not Roundhouse.
Is it not Roundhouse?
No.
Blue guy?
Was Roundhouse in it?
Well, maybe not.
No, they did have, was it Sideways? He's a teleporter that has an original story.
Sideways has got his own series. So.
No, but I think he debuted in that.
No, he's been out for a while.
Yeah, he's been out
Roundhouse
for
was
months.
not in that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's not? Oh, cool.
What do I know? Maybe it's not a collector's edition.
No, there is, but there was like a side story of someone who had nothing to do with the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the guy. He jumps dimensions.
Yeah, that's Sideways, but he's got his own
think
series.
I'm pretty sure
It's on issue 7 or 8. Yeah, he's been out for a while.
Oh, he has a story.
Yeah, he was with that DC New Age of Hero stuff.
Yeah,
Things like Brimstone and The Silencer came out. and
Maybe I
that
missed
stuff.
Roundhouse in it.
I don't know. That's what I heard.
I know I've read it, but I kind of just.
I didn't read it yet. I just heard that was the case. So
It's
maybe
on my stack to read. It's just I haven't gotten to it yet, too. But I mean, so that I think it's good. I'm one of those people that I think that they should move it closer to the register. Just because if your kid's not into things like Pokemon, or they're not, or is that even still a thing? If they're not into things like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or baseball cards, they're not venturing to that little single aisle.
Yeah,
and so they may not see that. So if you have a kid who's just kind of into whatever, so I think that I'm one of those people. I think they should bring them closer to the aisle, but like Sean said, that aisle was really close to the checkout line anyway, and I could see it when the reason I went and bought the first one is because I looked over there and I saw it. I was like, hey, I want that. So so they're making it accessible.
I'm pro getting comics into kids' hands however you have to. Absolutely. I just am also pro not only putting enough out that the collectors only are buying them and the kids aren't getting them. And that's my frustration with it.
Yeah, and I was worried about that too. But so if you have been keeping up with us, one thing that you guys know is that on our social media accounts, Sean is an artist. Sean likes to draw, and he does a really, really good job at it. And what he started to do is to take requests from people who are also listeners of the show and people who like our Facebook page and stuff. So, Sean, what'd you draw this week, dude?
Well, late start, as it's starting to happen now because of my work. But I didn't do a drawing on Sunday. I just came home way too tired. So Monday I doubled up. Sunday's request was King Ghidorah from the Godzilla movie series.
Yeah.
As requested by Kyle Squeaky Heron again. He has been a long time requester.
I like that dude.
Greatly. But also for the Monday request was Bowser from the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. As requested by Sarah Drew, also known as Queen Koopa Cosplay. So no surprise on her choice.
Right, yeah.
Wonderful person. We've given her props before on the show. Tuesday, I did the blue and black Power Ranger. Power Rangers, plural, because there's two of them. As requested by Jason Hadley.
Yeah.
Very cool dude. Exchange a few conversations with him. Might do an art trade.
Oh, very cool.
Hoping.
He's a friend of mine from down in southwest Arkansas. Great guy. Sorry.
It was a fun conversation we had online because he didn't realize it was me typing because we keep it ambiguous.
Sure.
Typing. He's like, I don't know if Sean liked my art. I said, this is Sean. I like the art.
He's a sweetheart, man. He really is.
So if you are listening, work on that piece. Wednesday was the evolution of Mario. At least that's how I took the picture. He said it was by from Brent Douglas, the guy who runs River City Comic Expo. A few years back. But he sent me a picture of Mario from all the different games. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna literally draw like the evolution of man with Mario going from Donkey Kong as Jumpman all the way to Super Mario World on Super Nintendo. After that, it was yesterday, Thursday, was Larry Lilly requested Eddie from Iron Maiden. And he specifically said, choose an Eddie. In which case, Caleb responded immediately afterwards in all caps, Trooper.
Yeah, man.
And me not being the proper metalhead had to look up what the hell that meant. So I found the cover and I illustrated Trooper Eddie.
It was fantastic.
For both Larry and Caleb.
You remember how last time I said that one piece you had did was your best yet?
Yeah.
That you upped yourself because now Trooper is my favorite thing you've ever done.
Aww.
Dude, that was seriously dope.
Next week when we see Caleb stabbing Jerry in the neck, that'll be the best.
See, that has to stay in now.
I'm going to sit it right here on the refrigerator.
I have to break out the watercolors for that. But yeah, those are the drawings I've done. Tonight is Galadriel. Actually, from Lord of the Rings. And Jerry knows exactly who that's from.
From Matt Buchanan.
Yes.
You guys know he actually has a Galadriel tattoo.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Does he show it off often?
No, not really.
Not really at all.
Yeah, I think he just got it.
I thought we established Lord of the Rings isn't real.
It isn't, but that goddamn tattoo is.
Ongoing inside joke with us and that. Fine, gentlemen. But yeah, hopefully tonight, Galadriel, if not, definitely tomorrow.
Listen, you don't have to call him fine.
He's a fine young man. He has a Galadriel tattoo, have you heard?
I feel like I need to go get a nerd tattoo or like a comics tattoo. I don't have one. And
you do not. You have a lot of ink, but no nerd.
Yeah, ink. I think I want to do a whole leg piece that's comic book characters.
You could get Sean's watercolor drawing and be stabbing me with a wine glass.
That's going to be a back piece.
It's going to be our new logo for the podcast.
Well, again, Sean, dude, pumping out great work after long grueling hours at work, coming home and drawing that. You do fantastic stuff, and people seem to really like it. So, and I really like it. So,
I appreciate it.
If you're listening to the show, like our Facebook group, like our Instagram group, and request drawings from Sean because he'll take them and he'll do a great job with it. And it's kind of fun to see your suggestion get turned into something real and take that from somebody who has suggested things. And Sean has done an immaculate job.
Yeah. Honestly, draw almost like I keep the only rules I have is with any of my artwork. I keep it to the rule of the bar and Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
No politics, no religion, but we will get wacky with it. I don't care. I will beyond those subject matters. I will draw any damn thing you want.
Nice.
As long as it doesn't get us banned from Facebook. No crossed stuff, Craig.
I'm not going to ask you to draw horsecock.
But I will for you.
So another cool thing about having the Facebook group and being in touch with folks on social media and everything, we've got some listeners and some friends who have been able to ask us some questions and stuff that they're curious about or just curious about our opinion of. And so we put out a call every week for people to ask us stuff. So go on there, you'll find those posts. I love the questions, man. When you feed them to us, it gives us topics to and it's stuff that the four of us might not readily think of to talk about. And so I wanted to go through some of those. We don't have time to go through all of them just because, we actually got quite a bit of feedback. But we're going to stack them up. So if you don't hear yours on this one, come back next week because we're probably going to talk about it then or the week after that. But we're definitely going to get to it. We appreciate the questions, and we love that you guys think enough of us to want to know our opinions on these things. So our first question comes from one Mr. John Westhoff, and he starts off with saying, a lot of comics released over the last few years are about Southerners. Is this a good thing? Is it too stereotypical? Do we not care? Or just fuck Batman? And I think this is a great question.
Fuck Batman.
I think this is an awesome question, especially to ask guys who are running a podcast called the Southern Fried Geekery.
We might know a thing or two about them. They're Southerns.
So I get it now.
Yeah. Did that light bulb come on, Jerry? So I've definitely got my opinions on this, but I want kick you guys off first. What do you guys think about the representation of Southerners, or what does that even mean to you? But when you see that in comics,
there's just off the top of my head, you got Rednecks, you got Southern Bastards, Harrow County just finished, and there's more. I personally enjoy the Southern comic books that are out. Yeah, maybe there's some stereotypical stuff in there. Southern Bastards it's talking about, the typical small Southern town where football runs the culture and what would happen if it really got out of control. But for the most part, I enjoy those books, man. Southern Bastards has been really good. Rednecks is really good. Harrow County was maybe the best horror book in the past 5 years. I enjoy them. I have no problems with them.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't read too many. The number one that comes to my head, though, is Preacher.
Oh, yeah.
Being started off in Texas, for sure, and starring a Texan. And as far as, the stereotypes and all this kind of stuff, we know that stereotypes are exaggerations of real life, but we live in the South. They're not that far off. This is be real.
Valid point.
Can you call it a stereotype when you see it almost every damn day? There's always over-the-top exaggerations, but I'm sure there are parts of Arkansas where people are gutting fish and sticking their dick in them like a preacher. Happens. I'm sure.
Shit happens.
Told you not to tell anybody.
Actually, now that you say it, I saw a video online.
I don't know your browser history.
Some dude was, where they catch catfish by putting their hand in. Yeah. He was doing that with his dick.
Noodling. That's called noodling. That's
either the bravest or dumbest person I've known, or maybe both.
Yeah.
So I said Preacher, probably the only really Southern book I've ever read. I've enjoyed it, even with all the stereotypes, and I think it's a good thing because I think I haven't read Harrow County and some other one that you talked about with the horror elements. Yeah, the South has a deep history of horror and ghosts. I think it's untapped potential for more stories.
I grew up hearing those stories.
Bone Parish, doesn't that take place in the South too?
Yeah. Southern Gothic horror. That's an entire genre.
Yeah. And I think it's all good and stuff. It's not a negative light per se, and of course,
whenever
they put things in a negative light, they always cast that as the villain of their book, kind of. But you always have somebody else that's from that is cast in a positive light. So you don't always have like that negative stereotype without having a positive stereotype from the South. So.
Well, in fairness to Southern Bastards, Jason Aaron's writing it, and he's from the South.
So is Jason Latour.
Yes, they're both from
of
the
those are
South.
Southern gentlemen.
In Jason Aaron, at the back of it, in the very first issue, said, "I'm from a small Southern town. Small Southern towns scare the shit out of me."
Yep.
And so, I mean, he's writing it from personal experience, so you can kind of excuse any of those stereotypes because he is writing it from what he experienced growing up.
And in that book, he's had a lot of letters that have talked about over the time, like the different issues that we've had and everything with, I mean, just the South and the government
Right.
in general. And yeah, it's I don't know, it's been really deep stuff. Southern Bastards has been a really good book.
Well, and so I'm going to weigh in here a little bit. I agree with all of those things. I think all of those are very good points, especially in books like Southern Bastards. You see the two sides of the coin, though. Yes, you are seeing some of the really bad, quote unquote, call them rednecks. Some of the racist elements, some of the homophobic elements, misogynist elements. The flip side of that, the people that are the good people in the book, they're also Southerners, and so you're seeing the two sides of that coin. And I think that's important to show that those things that there is that duplicity in Southern culture, and especially in Southern Bastards, where the main character is a woman of color, and you're seeing, or one of the main characters is a woman of color.
I was going to say, I would argue that the football coach, Boss, what's his name?
Yeah, a little bit. There are definitely hard directions.
Wasn't it just Coach Boss?
Coach Boss, yeah.
That they go in. But you're seeing the two sides of that coin. And you mentioned Harrow County, which is one of my favorite stories ever. Again, you're seeing these really rich Southern elements shown in a good light. Redneck, East of West. East of West shows Southern culture a little bit in a futurized, because that's a word.
But it's one of the territories.
Of Arkansonian or whatever the fuck you
Arkansaurian. We're Arkansaurians.
I think he said Arkansaurian.
Arkansaurian, something like that. But yeah, and for
I'm
transparency,
Arkansarian, you ever said that?
John Westhoff actually has a book out. It's called Hellbillies. It's out from Kingbone Press, and it's Southern Gothic horror. I think it is a good thing because, especially in the light that these books show Southerners, I actually like Southern representation in comic books better than I like Southern representation on film, because in television and film they have a real bad tendency of showing Southerners, especially Southern men of any color, white or black or Latino or anything. They show us as uneducated individuals, slow, yep, largely uninterested in anybody but ourselves. And that's far from the case. Some of the most intelligent people on earth literally have came out of the South. Southern writers are some of the best. I mean, there are entire schools on Southern writing. And there's this really rich cultural history of the South that does get washed over by the ignorance that is largely abundant here. And I don't think it's wrong to show both sides of that coin. I'm okay with you showing.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
To Kill a Mockingbird,
yep,
the book portrayed the South very well. The movie portrayed us as a little bit slow and backwards.
Right.
So so to answer John's question and mine, I don't think that there are some things that are too stereotypical. I largely think the Southern representation that we've seen in comics, or at least the comics that I've read, have been a good thing. But also, fuck Batman.
Fuck Batman.
Fuck Batman.
So Kyle Heron asks, I think this is Squeaky, the guy that you were,
sir.
I want to meet him someday. He seems like, Kyle, you seem like a very interesting individual from what I can tell off Facebook, and I like you, man. You're a pretty cool dude. He wants to ask what we think of the Venom movie, or how we think it will work out without having Spider-Man in it. And do we think Sony's trying too hard?
Yes, and yes. I think the Venom movie is going to be fine. I think Sony's trying too hard, and I think it'll do okay without Spider-Man.
Well, I guess prefacing this, the second trailer just released this past week, so I think that's probably what prompted this question.
Well, and like I said before when we talked about the trailer, I wasn't excited about the movie before the second trailer. Didn't care after I saw the first trailer. After seeing the second trailer, I was like, okay, at least I'll watch it now. Right. So, yeah, that's how I feel.
It can absolutely work without Spider-Man. It's an alien that's attached to a human body. and he has to fight for control. Doesn't have to hate Spider-Man beforehand. They're not doing the spider symbol. They are keeping the white designs within the suits. They're keeping Venom to his design. He can be called Venom without having to be associated with fucking spiders. And especially if you're reading the current Venom series, it makes just much sense that it has its own name and it wants to kill and eat people. I think it'll absolutely work. Trying too hard, honestly, I don't get where that question's coming from. It looks like any other kind of dark action comic book movie. I think Tom Hardy is a fantastic actor. He's gone with a different Brooklyn accent. Can kind of say, going a little high-pitched on it. It's interesting, but, I'll watch anything that man does, so.
For sure.
I think all of it is going to work. I think it's looking like a very good film.
My whole opinion on it, I've actually kind of haven't flipped, but I've changed a little bit. The newest trailer did sell me on him being Venom. I don't know. I was never really on the fence about him being Eddie Brock because I knew Tom Hardy would kill it as Eddie Brock. I think that it's awesome that he's also doing the Venom voice. My biggest concern about not ever having Spider-Man and everything in there is like you can do one movie with him, but I feel like after a while it's going to get a little like convoluted. I don't know, just thinking about the whole feel that Spider-Man gave that character, because he essentially made Eddie Brock Venom essentially like how he made Flash Thompson want to be a hero in a sense. But I mean, I'm actually gonna go see it now. I thought the effects looked amazing, but I don't know. I'm on the fence about the storyline of it per se. Like I feel like and it's the same thing like that the X-Men did. They had all the characters and everything, but they kind of started straying too far from the story. And then by movie 3, it was just like, what are we doing at this point? And I feel like if you start straying further and further away, then eventually, like, why are you calling this Venom anyway? Is my whole opinion on it.
So I think I'm going to be the odd man out in the group. I was on the fence during the first trailer, and the second trailer completely drop-kicked me off the fence. Like, it came running across the field, screamed at me, jumped up, and hit me in the head with 2 feet. I did not like the effects at all. I thought that it looked like, whenever the Venom suit's taking over in the second one, I think it looked like claymation, and that kind of was a turn-off for me. And also, whenever Venom was speaking, you remember, so back in the days of analog television, whenever the sound and the picture would get off track and the sound did not match up with what the person was saying, like every time he spoke, that's what I felt like was happening, and it grated against my last nerve. I think that they can absolutely do Venom without doing Spider-Man. I don't know that they should. I think they can. I don't know that they should. I don't know that they should do Venom without some other Marvel character juxtaposed with him to tie it in. Just my personal opinion. I'll still go see it. I'm still going to go watch it, and I don't want to trash the film off of what I saw in a trailer.
And I guess that is like the biggest point of this, though, is like if you're going to make this character that exists in these comic books, then why give him a solo movie that's not connected to the comic books at all if you're never going to connect him with it? Because even, they've even done a lot of stuff with connecting Deadpool to stuff that he hasn't even, like, they don't even...
Well, they are connecting.
I was going to say, I think the jury's still out on that one. There's still a lot of rumors that Spider-Man's going to be either mentioned or make an appearance.
Tom Holland is scheduled to make an appearance in the movie, not as Spider-Man.
It's not really going under the Marvel banner as much, because it's definitely more of a Sony project. Yeah. But we know that Homecoming was as much Sony as it was Marvel. Right. So I'm sure they're just keeping that as a big surprise. I would put money down on that, but you never know. And as far as Venom, like, granted, I haven't read much of Venom. He's not necessarily my favorite Spider-Man villain out of all the ones you can choose from. But, we're already getting other symbiotes in that movie to fight. Part 2, they want to make their Dark Knight Returns, or the Dark Knight version. Bring in Carnage like everyone wants. Basically, they just need to keep feeding the fans what they've been demanding. And they haven't got. They've been bitching about Venom for all these Spider-Man movies. They've been bitching about Carnage. Let's give it all. Let's just keep it a symbiote trilogy.
That's actually a really good point. In the second Spider-Man movie, you could bring in Carnage and have that be your symbiote bad guy, and let Venom be the anti-hero that just joins up. I just hope that at some point Venom says, "You think this gives you power over me?"
All right,
I was born in the dark.
It sounds like 3 out of the 4 Southern Fried Geeks are really, really pumped about this. And, That's awesome.
One's pop, two are men, one's not
energetic, and that's okay. That's why I like doing this podcast. Is we don't necessarily always agree on things, and I think that's rad because it gives a little bit different perspective. So our buddy David Scott wants to know. Hi, David. Wants to know what our favorite ongoing series is right now. A few months back, maybe we did our halftime report, but it's been some things have I think changed since then. So really good time for this question. So I'll kick us off. It's a tough one for me because my favorite series of the last several years, Harrow County, just ended. Right now, it's a toss-up between DC's Red Hood and the Outlaw by Scott Lobdell, and I think Trevor Hairsine, Sean.
If you mispronounce any of these names, feel free to come on this podcast and fight us about it.
Is doing the art right now, and Gideon Falls by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino are my ongoing series right now. It's a toss-up. I like them both.
You know, it's easy to say Batman right now, but the last couple of issues of Batman have been meh, in my opinion. The last 3 issues have been kind of meh. So, Saga just went on hiatus, which is always a good backup for your number one. So, I'm really struggling with this question. Why don't we go back around and all right.
Well, you did touch on Batman, and during the year review, that was definitely like the winner of most of my picks. But I have to agree, the last few issues have been kind of a downward turn. Just between, the writing is still good, but it's just not. I think to that point. Don't get me wrong. Like right now, if anyone else is reading, you'll know what I'm saying when it's like Law and Order, Batman, Special Victims Unit, whatever is going on right now. Interesting court drama. I don't care for court dramas. So right now, this isn't just the arc for me. So it's kind of like, I want to say Batman because it blew my mind, and I've been ranting about it since we started this fucking podcast. And Saga, I want to say Saga, of course, like you said, number one. It just went on hiatus, and it takes 3-month breaks. I almost don't want to categorize that as ongoing, even though it is.
Right.
So, broken record time. Savage Dragon has not disappointed me in any of its wackiness, sexiness, violentness, and every other nesses we can throw out right now. So I'm giving it up to Savage Dragon.
Savage Dragon loves you, baby.
For mine, I was really trying to come up with a Marvel series because I've been reading a shit ton of Marvel. But thinking back on it, every single one of them is a miniseries that I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
So my 2 favorite series that are ongoing right now, I look forward to Brimstone every time it comes out. I know we haven't talked about it a lot, and I was going to talk about it this week, but something else came up that needed to be talked about.
Is it a miniseries?
Huh?
Is it another miniseries?
No. Actually, I guess it is. It's an event, whatever.
Right.
And then Gideon Falls, of course. Gideon Falls has been fantastic. We can never go wrong with our Lord and Savior, Jeff Lemire.
I'm going to say Rednecks.
Rednecks? Good. Yeah, Donnie Cates, man.
It's fantastic. So it's one I look forward to. Goes right to the top of my pull list every time it comes out. So
very nice.
You break your alphabetic cycle for Rednecks?
I do.
Gasp! I'm clutching my pearls.
I actually broke it for Saga last week.
2 weeks ago. What's happening?
Well, you knew you had to.
Spoilers.
So good picks all around. I encourage you all to go back and listen to that halftime special if you haven't. We had a lot of fun doing it. Looking forward to our end of the year special that we come out with. And your Brimstone comment was a good segue into our last and final question from a friend.
Yes.
Some guy named Justin Jordan wants to know, why am I so great? And he means him in this case, not Caleb. So to that, Justin, Tom, your cat, that's why you're so great. Tom Waits, your kitty cat, your fluffy, beautiful angel. Tom Waits is why you're so great.
That's a very good reason. The last page of Brimstone number 5 is the reason why he's so great.
That monster in the last issue as well.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, you're great because you write great stuff. I'm entertained by every book you put out. I'm never let down when I read a Justin Jordan book.
He was obviously born, and his parents were like, "This is going to be a superhero," and that's why they gave him an alliteration for a name. So,
yeah, of course.
Wait, so we're not talking about the WWE wrestler Justin Jordan?
No, different guy, buddy.
I got nothing.
This is the Ginger Wood Beast from Pennsylvania.
By the way, Justin, you have a doppelganger in Central Arkansas.
Right.
We were at a comic book.
Arkansaurian? How did we?
Arkansaurian.
Arkansaurian.
We
have an Arkansaurian doppelganger.
Arkansaurian doppelganger. That sounds like a Doctor Who episode.
We were in the local comic book store, and this guy walked in, and I had to do a double take, and I even pointed it out to Caleb. I'm like, man, I thought that was Justin for a minute.
This guy was slightly less pretty, though. Justin's a gorgeous, gorgeous ginger wood beast.
And he was also more the size of Justin a couple years back.
Right. He's getting svelte, man. He's
he's
working out every day, just
trying to get his diabetes under control.
And really is a great friend. And I got cracked up when he commented.
All around good guy.
So, all right. So if you remember, we're going to move on from that a little bit. Great questions, guys. Please continue to send them in. We love them, and we have a great time talking about them. Sometimes we enjoy it a little bit too much and take a little bit too long, and that's okay.
It's Friday night. We get to work,
and I'm drinking wine. The husband's out playing Pokemon Go somewhere, so I'm not on the clock and not driving. So fuck it, we're gonna have fun with this. Last week, if you guys remember, we told you that the first of every month we're going to do something a little bit new. We're going to be doing spotlight episodes where one person picks a character and then we roundtable on it and we tell you, everybody talks a little bit about what their favorite moments are, or maybe something that they learned that's new because they didn't know anything about it. And the spotlight is not limited to just comic characters. You can do a spotlight on a genre. You can do a spotlight on a creator, anything. And so what we did, because we are geeks, we're the Southern Fried Geekery podcast, we rolled D20s. And somehow, magically, because this never happens in actual games, I got a big number, which never happens when we're playing. I always get the shit number. So why this happened now, the gods are crazy, I don't know. But I did. And so, at first I was thinking we really need to dedicate some time to the Hulk. But I thought, no, that's going to be too just on the nose. Everybody knows the Hulk's my dude. I was like, well, maybe we need to do Namor because he's a great. And I was like, no, everybody's going to expect that. So I went with the other totally shirtless, hot, buff dude from Marvel. I went with Hercules. And so I thought we would talk about that character as our spotlight character. I love this guy. In all of Marvel, I would say Hercules is definitely in my top 5. That list is constantly revolving, I think, like everybody's is. But he's been through a lot of stories, and he is a really fun character. He's been written by a lot of people, had some great moments. And so I'm really looking forward to what you guys want to say about him. But just a short mention, this version of him obviously comes from the classics, the Greek classics of Hercules, the demigod. But this version was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He first appeared in Journey into Mystery Annual #1, circa 1965. And he was who he was. He was completely based on that, and it's fitting that he came from a... You tried, Terry. You tried. You did okay, kid. He came out of this element, and it was fitting that he was in there with Thor. So, with that in mind, I was thinking, what in all of comicdom, all of Marvel history would be a good story for me to talk about him. And I actually decided to go with a 2-issue limited series. Here's the fun part. Here's the fun fact. Hercules is dead in them. He's not actually in the book, so I tricked you guys. This book...
I gotcha.
This book is called Hercules, Fall of an Avenger. It's written by Greg Pak and Fred Van Lente. It was drawn by Ariel Olivetti. It was painted by Ariel Olivetti, I should say. He did all the art duties on it. And this is a really fun story for me, especially because it showcases everything I love about this character, because it presents him at his funeral. It presents him in the light of Hercules has died. This came after Greg Pak's Incredible Hercules series that took over the Incredible Hulk series.
This is Greg Pak.
Yeah, Greg Pak is a longtime Herc writer and has done some of the best stories, at least since the early 90s.
He actually brought him back into continuity, I believe.
So this story, one of the reasons I love it so much, like I said, is it showcases the ways that Hercules has touched the lives of many of his Marvel friends and his compatriots. And so what you see when the story opens up, people are walking up to the Parthenon, everybody's paying their respect. And Amadeus Cho, who longtime friend, companion, adventure buddy with Hercules, is pissed. So he's flipping off the gods. He's like, Zeus, go fuck yourself. Athena, Hera, all of you guys, you didn't do shit for him. You let this happen. This is your fault. Amadeus Cho is a child, or he's a teenager, so he's the seventh smartest teenager in the world, but he's still got those hormones raging and doing stuff.
Some would say he's the Prince of Power.
Some would say that he could be, which is Hercules' thing. But so after that happens, people come up and they kind of settle him down because half of the Marvel community shows up, and everybody's like, you know what, you're right. The gods didn't do anything for him, so we're going to. And so you get this kind of who's who of people out of Hercules' history. You get Thor, you get Namor, you get Namorita, you get the Warriors 3, you get Angel, you get just a ton of people, and they're there to pay homage to their fallen friend. And it's a beautiful, beautiful setup. You get Bruce Banner is there talking about how he didn't really know Hercules as a person. He knew Hercules as somebody that took a chance on him and that treated him with respect. Thor jumped up and was like, hey, the first time I met Hercules is when I was battling giants and I touched an obelisk and got sucked into this world. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier where they thought they were fixing to have to fight, and it turns out they didn't. They got challenged to a drinking contest, and so Thor and Hercules beat these giants drinking gargantuan bottles of mead, and then get swept away into the loving and voluptuous arms of giantesses. And they don't say what happened, but drinking and fucking happens. We all know what happens. Namor steps up and he's like, it's my time. And so he starts. He's Namor, so he's a dick. Like he does his thing and basically, he jumps up and is like, Hercules was a fool. And everybody's like, hey, dude, that's enough. Like, don't do that here. And he's like, nope, I have my time, thank you. And he's 100% right. He tells a story about how he and Hercules got in a fight. And basically how it was that violence. Like, Hercules gave Namor the gift of battle to snap him out of this rage, this red-eyed rage, blind rage that he had been in. And if it wasn't for that, he would be just lost. And what's funny is because they snap back to regular time, and Namorita just punches him. And he's like, oh shit, the gift that keeps on giving. Then you get in these moments to where there are a few of the women who are there. And look, if you know Hercules is, we'll call them sexual exploits, are legend. They're legend even in the Marvel Universe alone. So what you have here is Namorita, Snowbird, Black Widow, and I'm not really sure how you say her name, Alfleece. I've never really heard it.
She can come on the show.
she's one of the queens of the Dark Elves of Svartalfheim. And they're basically like, yep, we all lay with him. Like, that's our story. Like, he was a generous lover. He did his job and he did as well. He bed these women well and they love him. And so Snowbird's actually up there talking, and she's like, and we're not the only ones, so feel free to come forward. And North Star is like, oh shit, I gotta go. So one of the it's phenomenal. One of the things about Hercules that is kind of well known right now, it's not being front and center in it. Hercules is, I don't know if you would call him bisexual. I don't know if you would call him omnisexual.
I would call him omnisexual.
Pansexual, anything. Yeah. Hercules doesn't discriminate. He just really likes to do some fucking. And as I respect the shit out of that. Like that's a great worldview to have. And so North Star bounces out. He's like, nope, we got to go. And if you know North Star, he's also a character dear to my heart because he was the first character to actually get married to a man, like actually in a wedding ceremony, at least in Marvel. I don't know. Archie was the first comic to actually have a mainstream gay character, but he was definitely the first one I remember getting married.
I want to say North Star was the first mainstream. I heard about that before I heard about Archie.
Right. Well, no, Archie had a gay character before Marvel. Like their character came out as gay. Oh. North Star was the first one that he was maybe more well known because Archie. Everybody knows Archie comics, but nobody knows Archie comics. You know what I mean? But anyway, so you get these moments talking about his sexual exploits, and then everybody kind of turns to Amadeus, and it gets a little bit serious and a little bit solemn for a second. And Amadeus speaks to the human moments, the friendship, the companionship, the brotherhood, and almost in a little ways like a father figure that Hercules became to him, and just how much as he misses him. And everybody steps forward and just says, you know what, it's okay to feel lost. It's okay to weep for your friend. It's okay to miss him. That's part of the human experience. And this is in part one that this happens of this 2-part series. And of course, that time the thunder cracks in the sky and opens up, and the Greek gods come down. Athena, Ares, you get Apollo, all of them come forward. And they're like, okay, before this little magic moment happened, we heard you talking shit. Athena's, in this time in the storyline, Zeus and Hera are both dead, so Athena's kind of taken over. And she's like, yeah, get the fuck out of my temple. You don't get to talk shit in my house. And so they all kind of go flying back. And that's the point in the first issue that you say is to be continued. Now, I'm not going to get into the second issue because it's more of just an ongoing story. But what happens in that one, just in a nutshell, they choose teams. Each of the gods chooses a champion that's supposed to fight one another. And they do. And eventually, logic wins the fight. And they find a different way to do things. In the meantime, the characters, I think Namorita and Snowbird, I believe, are going around and they're telling all of the people that loved Hercules, and they're telling all of the organizations that he set up that he's passed away, because Hercules, his thing was, drinking and partying. It was libation, and he'd set up all of these charities and nude beaches and things. And so they're going around to talk to him, and there's these really touching moments in that. But by the end of the second issue, when I say logic wins out, something happens and Amadeus Cho goes to hell. He doesn't die, but he goes to hell, which in Greek mythology is the afterlife. That's it. Like you either, hell is all one big place. You either go to the Elysian Fields, or if you're a bad person, you get to go get to whatever, but it's all in the same place.
Right.
Hercules isn't there, which means Hercules, in true comic book fashion, is not dead. And that launches Amadeus Cho into his own future adventures looking for his friend. It's a phenomenal 2-part issue. You can actually get it collected on Amazon. I checked. You go in there and look at it. Beautiful story, beautiful art. I love Ariel Olivetti, especially when he paints, when he's doing this stuff right here. I know Craig's not a big fan of the guy, but I think this is some of his best work. And yeah, lots of fun. And also really humorous moments, really touching moments. It runs the gamut of emotive expression that you get from sequential art. And I encourage everyone to go out and find. You can find these things in dollar books all the time too.
Yeah.
So go search the bins and find that.
Yeah. So for me, Incredible Hercules was my first real experience with this version of Hercules, and I was on the Hulk book mainly because it was following the events of Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. And it kind of pissed me off because I was buying a Hulk book and it just became Incredible Hercules. But then it was one of the best damn books I'd ever read. It was really fantastic. It was a team-up book with Amadeus Cho, which is, as Caleb said, predated this death sequence.
If I'm not wrong, and just to back correct, the story, the series that you're talking about led up to the miniseries.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and to this day, most people will tell you it's their favorite Hercules story, and it was good. My personal favorite Hercules story was the one that just came out in 2016 that Dan Abnett wrote and Clay Mann did the art on, and it was basically him trying to redeem himself in the eyes of the rest of the superhero community and he had given up drinking and partying and didn't give up fucking, but he had realized that he had kind of messed up in the eyes of the superhero community and that he didn't really have their respect anymore, and he was doing everything he could to earn that respect back. And it was a good story of redemption. I kind of wish it would have went on longer, but it was a good book.
And it was 12 issues.
Yeah. And it probably needed another 12 to, but it was really good.
Yes.
I love the costume that came out of that series.
Yeah.
They gave him a little bit of a different look, and it was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, it just put him in modern times. He gave him some modern people that were his helpers. Who was his roommate? Wasn't it Ares?
No, it wasn't Ares. It was, oh shit, you put me on the spot.
I can't remember. All of a sudden.
Gilgamesh.
Yeah, Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh was his roommate, and he was a drunkard sleeping on his couch. It wasn't really his roommate. He just gave him a place to stay, and he was sleeping on his couch.
Sometimes you need a guy on the couch.
Yeah,
he was that guy on the couch.
He was straight up that guy on the couch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've never read a single book that like prominently featured Hercules. I think I maybe read Civil War. He was in the background fighting, but like have absolutely no idea about other than a few tidbits. So went to a good old Google search engine and looked up some stuff about Hercules, especially his early beginnings. There's a lot of I found very interesting. As you mentioned, created by Lee and Ditko. He's actually modeled off of actor Steve Reeves, who played Hercules in several movies.
Yeah.
So I thought that was real interesting. And like as soon as they said it, they showed one of the original drawings of it. I looked at that's fucking Steve Reeves.
Was Steve Reeves Christopher Reeve's dad? Am I just playing the name association game?
Might be association, but I'll look while Jerry talks.
Oh, I was just curious.
Because I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. We'll find out. But just some interesting, some of his early adventures seem to be him and Thor butting heads a lot in the early adventures, as you mentioned, Journey into Mystery. But I thought it was kind of fun. His original title was actually Hercules, the Prince of Power. Mm-hmm. That's so 1970s, I would say. But then, like I said, the first encounter fighting with Thor to a standstill. Apparently, I was reading brief snippets about what went down. They were just fighting to no draw, not even to a draw. It wasn't going to stop, and then Zeus interrupted it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So he can hold his own with Thor. That's pretty fucking impressive. And then there again fought a different time, and Herc actually got the better of him. Actually had him in a good old sleeper hold, rear naked choke, whatever you want to call it. And Thor's inner dialogue was when he was struggling to break this man's grip, he was like, he's better than me at hand-to-hand combat. This is bullshit. So he lightnings his ass. Thor actually had to
as Thor do.
As Thor do. I mean, but I don't know if he ever told Herc in person, but he was while struggling, fuck, I can't beat him hand-to-hand, so magic lightning. So I thought that was very interesting. And then I had found this story about him and Thor and Herc in a drinking contest against frost giants. And you went over apparently that was from a newer book. So.
Well, no, it was a throwback. So in this one,
it was acknowledging the old story.
Yeah, it was just a retelling of that old story, of those moments.
Yeah. And of course, as victors do, they passed out at the table and were taken away by giant women.
Well, and I've never seen the actual Kirby art on that one, and I would love to, because I can just imagine Kirby, the way that Kirby drew those giantesses.
Right. The article I found about a lot of these little tidbits I thought were interesting. They had images from the original drawings, the giant meat kegs.
Yeah.
And didn't even look like glass. They're just holding up entire kegs. Drinking shit. So, and you've talked about them before, and like I said, this is kind of why we're doing this. I never would have looked into the history of Hercules because honestly, I love Greek mythology, but I don't know, the character in the Marvel comics has never been on my radar. So it is interesting reading to find some little little bits about him. So
cool. Well, do you so as somebody who's never read him, do you think that you would after you've read about him, is that going to be something if you see him in a book that you'll pick up just to see what he's doing, or?
Probably not, to be honest. But if I see him on a team, I'll be like, that's fucking cool.
Right, okay.
I'll take that. But I don't think he's a selling point for me still, but hey, you never know.
Right on, man.
Is he in anything right now?
Not at the moment. I think he's being used as a background character in some things.
Yeah, he was just in an Avengers book in the background or something. I want to say in No Surrender. I think he was in that, but he's not prominent anywhere right now.
I just remember something. I think I'd seen in just a comic forum or something. They were talking about a She-Hulk series where back when she was saying she betted get older.
Oh, she did. There's not,
and he got the feels. She just wanted to bang good old Herc, and he was like, "Can we do this again?" She's like, "No, she broke Herc."
Nah,
she broke Herc's heart.
I found a list.
Oh, you found a list?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Of around
of Marvel women he's betted.
It's not as long as I was expecting, so I think it's a little outdated. You want me to go through them?
Sure, let's do this.
There was Megara, his first wife when he was still a demigod hero in ancient Greece. Hippolyta. Denaria, Herc's last mortal wife, and the woman who led to his mortal death. Hebe, the Olympian goddess of youth and Hercules' immortal wife. Black Widow. Nova, Frankie Ray. Lyanna Sweetwater. Lucinda Thrust, She-Hulk, Taylor Madison, Snowbird, Namora, Queen Elfie from the Dark Elves, Arachne, which I'm going to touch on in a minute, Psylocke, and Rhea, which is was his coworker, I think, during the bar scene.
Yeah, they have left a few names out of there, and they left all the male names out of there.
Yeah,
there's been more than
they also had unclear but possible was Amora the Enchantress, Scarlet Witch, Black Mamba, Cersei, Deathcry, and then he had some interesting side notes with some characters.
All right.
So
my boy knows what he's doing. Somebody throws it at him, he's gonna take it.
I don't have a whole heck of a lot of experience. I know about his promiscuous side and everything. I did start reading whenever he was joining up with the God Squad. I don't think I finished that run, but I think after that, my next experience with him was at the end of Spider Island.
No.
Did you get a description?
No, just he is not related to Christopher Reeves.
Okay, just curious.
But at the end of Spider Island, after all these mutations and stuff happened, you had a bunch of naked people in the middle of New York because they got turned back into human, and Hercules was one of those people. And he was talking about how it reminds him of parties of old and everything. And one of, I think it was like Gravity, was the Spider-Man sidekick for a while. He was like, Herc, can we get some clothes for Hercules over here? So the two issues I actually picked up, because I hadn't read this before, was his Spider Island run. I didn't know anything about him prior, and all I knew about him after is what I just mentioned. So at one point he got depowered. And he was living in New York, and he ran his own bar. He was a bartender. And in Spider Island, essentially Jackal teamed up with the Spider Queen, and they infected a bunch of these little spiders with the same virus that Peter got infected with and became Spider-Man. But with how they had it is the Spider Queen could control spiders. She couldn't control Peter Parker for whatever reason. I think he had some kind of techie thing. So Herc gets bit by one of those and realizes that he has superhuman strength. He runs into these people that have been infected with these 3 Spider-Men, and one of them's a bit on the chunkier side, and they're trying to rob a place. And he goes through and realizes that he has spider senses, and his strength and everything's back. So he beats the shit out of him, and he's like, what should I do now? And he looks at the bigger one. And then next scene, we have him flying around in Spider-Man's costume. So you basically have Spider-Herc. So in the first issue that you pick it up, they don't explain anything to you. They just have the X-Men protecting one of these beacons. And then they're like, oh, Spider-Man's coming to help us, but it's Herc being mind controlled by Spider-Queen. And he's going to destroy this beacon. So you get this whole round table thing of the X-Men fighting him. And Storm actually fastball specials Wolverine into him.
Storm does?
Yeah. She's like, I've always wanted to do this, and she winds him up with wind or whatever, and then throws Wolverine.
Nice.
And Herc, having his spider senses, feels it coming, turns around and impales Wolverine on his sword. And so they're all trying to figure this out. And the goddess Arachne actually pops up at that point, and she finds out about the Spider Queen's plans and basically makes her relinquish control over Herc. Right before she does that, Herc mutates and has a half Hercules body and a half spider body. So he's fighting the X-Men, and then he comes to, and then they're like, oh, he's distracted, kill him. And right before they Wolverine puts the finishing, I think it's either Wolverine or Emma Frost, go to put the finishing blow, Arachne pops up and webs them all. And then she's like, oh, I knew that something was going on with this, but I didn't know I'd find you, and maybe I need to come back out and rejoin the gods and stuff. And then her and Herc basically get it on while all the X-Men can't move, and they just look on as this is happening.
It's one of my...
I think at one point,
proud of my boy.
I think at one point Storm is like, oh, it's really beautiful how this culture works or whatever. It's you just have all this stuff going on in the background. The other thing that I brought up that I was always curious about was his weapon that he had, the mallet.
Yep.
The mace. And there's not a lot on it. It was The only information was he's occasionally wields a golden-looking adamantine mace, stated and shown to be equal in durability to Thor's own mystical hammer Mjolnir, though it is not enchanted with additional abilities as Mjolnir is, and it's forged by the Greek god Hephaestus.
Yep.
And I mean, he doesn't use it all the time. I just always, a lot of times when I saw him,
it's a classic image.
Yeah, and I don't know, I thought it always looked really cool.
It is very
really
cool.
Badass hammer.
Some of my favorite images are drawn with him holding that. And then in the series that Craig was talking about, the one by Dan Abnett, he has a shotgun axe. So,
But yeah, the adamantine mace sounded pretty cool, and like it's supposed to be a way like superior version of adamantium.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really interesting, and I decided especially after seeing the covers of Spider Island Herc, I felt like pretty compelled to get it, and people weren't rushing to the store to get it, I guess. So now I own them.
You know my favorite part of Spider Island?
No, I don't, Craig. Tell me your favorite part about Spider Island.
Spider jizz.
Wait, what? Okay, no, hang on. Go ahead and explain that one.
Do you want me to explain?
Yeah, no, go for it. I need to know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, Mary Jane was immune to the whole effects of Spider Island, and they couldn't figure out why. And then Reed Richards was like, "It's because you and Peter have had sex so much that you are now immune to the effects of the spider."
She built up a tolerance.
She built up a tolerance.
They actually had a comic book, which was one of my favorite Spider-Man stories, called Spider-Man Reign, and it's supposed to be in like
Spider-Man Reign.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in a further dystopian future, and you find out that she actually died from cancer from the radioactivity of having sex with him.
Well, that's enough of this shit. But Spider-Man gets his own day when y'all pick him. It's about Hercules. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
What's up, Spider Jizz? Spider Jizz does whatever Spider Jizz does.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for placating me with talking about our boy Herc. In 3 weeks, we are going to roll our D20s again. I'm going to step out of the running because I had my moment in the sun, and you three are going to do. You're going to roll your dice, and you're going to see who goes next. And I'm pretty pumped about who you pick because it'll be a character that I don't know a whole lot about, most likely. And I'm really excited about it.
Or it might not be a character, Caleb.
Or it might not be a character because we're not limited to that. I'm pretty pumped. But let's move on to some comics that just came out this week. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get Smother'd covered in comics.
I thought we were done.
No, dude, we're just getting started. Are you kidding? It's Friday night. This is getting lit. AF.
Never
Bro.
again.
That's twice now that has been used tonight.
I think they were both by Caleb, too.
No, you did it earlier, too.
I'm pretty sure.
No, you piece of fuck.
Is it recording? Is it on recording?
Yes. You said Friday we're drinking, we're getting lit as fuck in here. You
Let the record.
Son of a bitch.
Craig.
He said AF, though.
The two youngest motherfuckers in here pissing off.
I don't ever want to hear you guys talk shit about me saying LOL. He just said AF.
I don't know what lit or AF or any of this shit means. I'm just going to talk about some comic
Well, you
books.
see shit
Shut up, Terry.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So before we get started, I just want to say, as always, there are heavy comic book spoilers in our Smother'd Covered in Comics section.
Spoilers.
Spoilers?
Spoilers. What's on the back of a douchebag's car? Spoiler.
Damn.
So, yeah. I'm going to get started. I chose Death of Inhumans #2 to talk about. It's by Marvel. It's written by Donny Cates with Ariel Olivetti doing the art, and Jordi Belair did the colors on it. And first thing I want to say is the three of you especially have heard me bitch about Ariel Olivetti before and how I won't ever buy a book he's on. Hey. I take that back because he is leap years above where he used to be. Huh. I actually used to get off of books if he was on them. But now, good job, Ariel, because I don't know if it's strictly that or the combination of Jordi Belair's colors, but the art is fantastic in this book. So I have to give you a little bit of background on issue #1. So what happens is the Kree come forward and they say, hey, we created the Inhumans, but we created the Inhumans to be super soldiers for us, and we expect you to come back and fight in our army and help us conquer the universe. And Inhumans are like, no, we're not going to do that. We're living our own lives, and we don't know what you're talking about, and leave us alone. Well, the Kree and the Kree develop a super Inhuman to go and force this to happen. I'm not talking about the first book, but the one thing that you have to know is that 1,100 plus Inhumans are murdered by this new super Kree named Vox, and including fan favorites Maximus and sadly Lockjaw.
Oh.
Yeah.
They killed the dog?
You don't kill the animal mascot.
Oh, shit.
That was issue 1.
That's why Caleb's not reading this book. Yeah.
So issue 2 starts up with Black Bolt is obviously distraught. He's trying to figure out where he's going to go because he's been left this ultimatum, surrender or die. Basically, join us or die. And so it goes through some things where he's trying to decide what to do. And he steps out into, it's not the throne room because that part is dead. He steps into this room that's got the remaining royal family there, Medusa and Karnak and, some of the bigger names. And he signs something because he speaks in sign language, and he signs something, and then it's the next scene you get is Karnak is standing in front of the Kree or walking into the Kree throne room, and they're like, "Oh, you're here to surrender, huh?" And he says, "Well, they talk for a minute, and then they're like, okay, well, what are your terms of surrender?" And he's like, "Yeah, you guys are mistaken. I didn't come here to surrender. I came here to tell you that Black Bolt is prepared to speech."
Which is the guy who doesn't talk.
Yes.
Yeah. And, or he's prepared a statement. And they're like, "Well, we don't want to hear a statement." And so they're like, "If you're not here to surrender," and this Vox guy jumps over. He's like, "Wait, I know who you are. You're Karnak, the one that can see what's coming and see weaknesses." He's like, "My only question for you is, do you not have a mirror on that planet?" As he stabs him in the side. And then puts a knife to Karnak's throat. In the meantime, Black Bolt steps up on the planet and starts giving his prepared statement, which is 1,100 Inhuman names. He's literally killing them by speaking the names of the people that they killed.
Wow.
And he is wiping out the Kree Empire, just walking right through town, just destroying it. They called him, the ones that happened to survive, named him Black Bolt the Merciless, because the only name he wouldn't say was Maximus because it was his brother.
Like I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah,
just that idea, like no joke.
And so as this is all happening, Vox says, he's got the knife to Karnak's throat, and he says, "Why did you come here if you weren't going to surrender?" And he's like, I wanted to see this happening. And, and it's just that moment, Black Bolt walks in and Vox is like, "Well, what's your decision?" And he says, "Die." And he destroys the Kree throne room. The Kree leader is buried under a pile of rubble. The rest of them are all dead. Vox is still standing, though. And Black Bolt starts signing something, and Karnak says, Vox asks Karnak, "What are you doing?" What's he saying? He's saying to go ahead and kill him. I don't care. He goes, "Quit lying to me." And Karnak says he's saying that take him instead of me. And so Vox teleports over, puts his knife to the back of Black Bolt's throat. He goes, "I'm going to tell you something no one's ever told you before. Hush." And he slits his throat. Woo. So,
damn.
Yeah, deep. I was going to talk about a different book, but when I read that book, let me just preface it. I don't really give a shit about the Inhumans. I care about Black Bolt and Medusa and Lockjaw. The rest of them, I don't really care, but I don't know how they're going to come back from this. I mean, it truly seems to be death of the Inhumans. And Caleb and I were talking before the show, and Donnie Cates really has me reading some books that I don't care about.
Right.
And I'm loving it.
That you wouldn't typically care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reading books that I wouldn't have bought, except Donnie Cates is writing them, and I'm loving them.
He's on a streak, man, and he's Marvel's prize horse in the race right now. I'm kind of like you. I personally hope they don't find a way right away to bring these people back.
Yeah.
I like the idea that there are consequences to comics. And so,
let this have its moment of the impact of what just happened. For the people out there that don't know, Black Bolt, we have to assume some people don't know these guys' powers, but Black Bolt's power is, and the reason he doesn't speak is even a whisper causes a sonic blast that destroys everything in its path. So for him to just, he just determined that whatever the consequences are, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do this thing. And,
You remember that time when Hulk came back to wage war and he landed on the moon?
World War Hulk.
Black Bolt did his thing and people could see it from the moon.
Yeah.
And then it was less cool because then it got retconned that he was just a Skrull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was better before we knew it was just a
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the fact that he was just saying 1,100, he was killing them with the names of his friends and family.
Yeah.
That to me was just amazing.
Well, and people complain about the Inhumans. Half the time, I can't tell the difference between the Inhumans and the mutants. I think people who just grew up loving the mutants hate the Inhumans by principle. I actually like the Inhumans, at least the royal family, and Karnak is one of my favorite characters across the board.
Yeah.
Love that guy, man.
I don't think Karnak's making it out of that.
Probably not. Black doesn't sound like. So,
Yeah.
All right, man. Dude, awesome. So I may have to go pick that up now because that's not a book I'm reading just because. But
like I said, what surprised me on it was the art. I mean, in addition to just the.
That's pretty cool though when an artist can turn you around.
He sold me. But now I will say this, that I believe the thing about Olivetti that turned me off is he was at the front end of the digital age of art, and you could really tell it back then.
Right.
And it did not look organic to me. Now,
and techniques have gotten better to where even though it's digital, it's looking a little more organic.
Yes.
But also to like where your statement you made earlier about maybe the colorist helps. I can tell you as a personal experience, I've only recently in my art started getting into coloring because really, I've always colored, but just never really practiced it. But shout out to my good friend Walter Mintier, the tattoo artist. He would constantly color my just sketches and ink drawings. And a colorist can make your art just blow up. Like a good colorist who knows he can work with you well can make your art just 20 times.
Well, and there aren't many better colorists than Jordi Belair, anyways.
No,
not taking anything from the artist, of course, but like I said, that may have also helped.
Yeah.
Well, and so back in the day, what Olivetti would do, as Craig said, he was on the front end of kind of the digital thing. He would cut and paste a lot, and he didn't try to cover up that that's what he's doing. So he'd have his comic art. And then, he'd have an actual brick wall cut and pasted in the back. Or he'd have an actual cityscape. It looked like a very photo. But to be fair, Kirby did that. So, if you look at some of those old, Namor the Submariner or Submariner, or Namor the Submariner comic books.
How else can we say his name?
He would Photoshop cities like New York City in the background. And so there's definitely precedent for that. But it was funny because this is something that Craig and I, we've had these conversations. I actually love his old stuff. And Craig is largely not a fan of the.
I am now. I am of his new stuff. The last few books I've seen him on, I didn't hate.
Right. I just think it's always interesting when two fans of the comic art medium kind of look at the same piece, see the same thing, and see those same elements, and one of them likes it and the other one doesn't.
Right.
Based on the same
Spider-Man.
Kind of, yeah, because I'm not really digging that dude's art on Amazing Spider-Man, and you are. But we'll talk about that later. So I want to talk about a book that just came out this week. It's a new #1, and it's getting a lot of hype in the comic world because it's the return of Ann Nocenti and David Aja.
Aja.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Mr. Aja, if you have a problem with how Caleb is pronounced your name, come on the podcast and fight us about it.
I want you to. So this book is also getting a lot of hype because it is the return of Karen Berger. And Karen, for a long time, if I'm not mistaken, was the driving force behind Vertigo until they let her go a few years ago, and she came over to Dark Horse and she started her own line of books, and this is the first of those. And so she's bringing what she brought to Vertigo now to a Dark Horse imprint, kind of. And this book is also interesting because, while David Aja is well known for being an artist, in this one he did the letters, the logo, and the design. But the art director, they have art directors and digital art technicians. Art director is Richard Bruning, and the digital art technician is Adam Pruitt. I don't really know what that means. So we're getting into a new development of comics with this. Like, this is actually on the forefront of what could be a wave of change in the way that comics are drawn, or that they're credited. And I think that's a really cool moment. I think in years we'll look back and see this as a first moment in a change in how comics are produced. So getting away from that and kind of getting into the bones of the story. So the book is called Bees. It's about a lot of things. So this was the book I was looking forward to last week. This was my getting ahead of myself. And the synopsis was insane. And I was kind of curious to see how they were going to do this, and blew me out of the water. So just real short, the synopsis of this book takes place in the future, but it's not the far future. We're talking about, so it's 2018 now. This might be, I think they actually give a date in here somewhere, but I didn't write it down. This may be 2030s, 2040s, but it's a very dystopian era book. So it opens up with bees and two beekeepers talking about how their queen has escaped and they don't know what's going on. And then it cuts, because there are a lot of cuts in this book. They go from different people to different perspectives. So it cuts to a reporter. And this reporter she takes her job seriously. She's a journalist. But unfortunately, she works at a newspaper or some type of periodical that doesn't respect true journalism anymore. They're looking for whoop tickets. They're looking for hype. They're looking, there's a lot, I guess, to preface the preface. This book is in many ways an analog for some of the things that are wrong with our society as a whole now. I know we talk about a lot of comics that are that way, but you're going to notice a few things that this book is about that you may very well relate to the beginnings of now. And so basically this real hardcore journalist who takes respect in her craft is wanting to talk about things, and her editor won't let her. She's just like, no, like, we're here to sell papers. Like, you need to go find this, like, almost tabloid stuff. Like, when she walks into her office, there's somebody on the phone who's like, wait, your goat's pregnant? Why is that news? Oh, because it's a boy? Are you sure? Boy goat? Okay, I'll send somebody out to talk about it. Does anybody want to go sex a goat? So they're going to do that. And so she goes into her editor's office after taking some pictures at the wall. Again, there's a wall. It is a very big wall. This wall separates two parts of the culture. One part is basically a wasteland where there is no technology, there's nothing. There's no phones, there's no television, there's no power. It's a wasteland, or so the people inside the wall think. The people who go outside the wall are known as Luddites, which is a biblical reference if you go back and check that out. People who live inside the wall think the people who live outside the wall are insane, because why would you live that life? But as this journalist knows, and as I mentioned earlier, I made an homage to two sides of the coin, two sides to every wall. And she wants to know the story. She wants that, but she can't go out, because once you go out, you don't get to come back in. And so that's a problem, right? Because every good journalist, it's like she's having to buck the system. She's having to go against the grain. Then it cuts to a really interesting scene where these two people are cleaning up. They've obviously just engaged in coitus. They've done the do. And the chick is naked from the waist down. She's getting cleaned up. She's actually sitting on the shitter, and the dude's like, well, what are you doing? She's like, I'm getting rid of you. You're not planting a seed in me. And so they're having their moments. And this guy's in a gas mask. This guy's in a trench coat and gas mask, and you don't know what's up. It's a dystopian world. You see there are a couple people walking around these things. There are, at one point, sirens go off, and they say, hey, get inside. There's toxic snow, yada, 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 stay safe. And interestingly enough, there are some mockingbirds or crows in this. I can't tell which. I think they're crows, but essentially they're mocking what they hear, and they're repeating what the siren says. So you get these really, really interesting moments. So yeah, they're doing that thing, cleaning up. He's like, can we do this again? And he's like, no, like, it was fun, good time, don't get me wrong, had a blast, but I'm outie. And she's like, wait, what? And you're crossing over? And so he doesn't really say yes or no, but you get the gist that he's going outside the wall. But keep in mind, just for future, you don't ever see this man's face. what you assume is a man. You don't ever see their face. So she goes about her business. He goes about his. You go back to the editor's office, and she's giving her a hard time. She's wanting to do a big story, and basically her editor tells her, look, you go do my bubblegum story, you sell me papers, and then I will let you do your super, I'm the badass journalist bullshit story that no one's going to read. All right, bet. So she's going to go out and look for this bubblegum story. Well, there's a new club that opened, and it's called Club Death. And apparently Club Death is selling this drug that you take that it shows you what your death is. There's a lot of stuff in this book that is curiosity about what's on the other side, be that the other side of the wall, the other side of death. People want to know. People are scared of the unknown. Some ways I think that's an element of xenophobia that it's talking about. There's so much cultural nuance to this book. It's a very deep book. It's a very dense book. There's not many books that I have to go back and read twice. And so I listen to podcasts and music while I'm reading. I had to turn my music off. Like, I had to have silence while I read this book. That's how dense this book, I was like, I'm missing shit. And I was. So she decides that she's going to follow this story. So she does. She goes to the club. She's looking around. As she is leaving the club, she sees a couple. And they're kind of strange. And she's kind of watching them a little bit. And she's like, okay, maybe they're tweaking out because they just took this drug or whatever. The guy's hood falls off and his mask falls off, and he's an alien. He's straight up an alien. What you find out is that the beekeepers at the beginning of the story are extraterrestrials. They are not Earthlings. Yeah, there's some weird shit happening in this story. And as I'm opening this up, there's this wonderful picture of a naked man in a gas mask holding a shotgun on a lazy chair. And so what you find out is the beekeepers, these people that are in there, are cultivating the bees, looking for a way to take these seeds back to study, and their goal is to obliterate humanity. And they know that bees have a lot to do with keeping humans alive, because, I mean, in real life, and bees are dying out, these are our food sources. These are how our food sources are cultivated. If bees die out in real life, they're going to die out. We're gone. We're toast. The human race is done, son. We got no fucking chance. The aliens know that. But what you find out is one of the beekeepers was the man in the gas mask that slept with the woman at the first. That was, they'd done to do. He got the feels for her, man. He doesn't want humans to die out. But the head alien is like, no, dude, we don't get paid if the human race doesn't go extinct. This is issue 1 of a 4-part series, and all of that happened in the first, let's see, these pages are actually numbered, 28 pages. And there's stuff I didn't tell you. Like, I know it sounds like I just laid a bunch of shit out, and there may not be a reason to go read this book, because holy shit, no, dude, there's that and more packed into 28 pages. It is stunning. This is an amazing comic book. It's a hard read. I want to go ahead and forewarn you. This is not Mickey Mouse reading. This is big boy reading. Like, put on your fucking Sherlock cap and go to town, because this stuff is going to make you think. Besides that, the art in this book blew me away. There are exactly 3 colors in this book. There's white, there's black, and there's depressing. So that's a joke, obviously, but most of the book is shaded and done in a muted, almost like borderline gray-green. The entire book is. There are only actually 3 colors in this book.
I can see the pages from here. It's a very muddy green.
It is. It's a very muddy, muddled thing, and it plays with shadows a ton.
Very Frankavilla.
It's Frankavilla without the orange, possibly.
Like, different color palette.
But occasionally you get these panels that are glitched out. You're like, it makes me think that these are being seen through a drone. Mm-hmm. These are black and white images being seen through drones. These people are being... It's a police state. And you get that feel in the book. And so I think that that's going to play a large part into how... It's either going to play a large part into the story, the fact that they're being watched by a potential government agency, or this is just a really, really genius way of visual storytelling. And they're going to say, hey, everything you just saw is like video captured. I know last week we talked about cops or live PD. Imagine that that's what this is. Imagine that it's these real live moments that are being delivered to us, the reader, through the lens of a drone. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I'm hedging my bets. It's got me on this book. 4 issues, well written, well drawn, gorgeously choreographed, politically and socially dense as fuck. Like, insane. I loved what I just read.
Well, full disclosure, I didn't get through all of my books this week since we're recording on Friday. And I've got a large stack of books to read every week. This is in my pile. I'm super excited about reading it now because it's straight up in my alley of books that I love. Alien invasions and...
Dude, it's part crime drama. It's part science fiction. It's part political intrigue. It's part wasteland war. Everything about this book is just it blew my mind. I was not expecting this at all.
Well, that sounds really good, man.
Yeah, I think I have it in my box.
Very cool. Well, my book of this week is actually the latest volume, which is 14 of My Hero Academia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It is like I said, full disclosure, we've mentioned it before. We read it online through the legal scans, but I am purchasing them and rereading them as they come out here. So, granted, it's an arc I've been waiting to read again.
Yeah.
Because this is the beginning of the Jerry will know what I'm talking about. Craig, I don't know if you read this far. Right? You dropped off, right?
Yeah, I'm about halfway through.
He got to the big three.
Yeah. So this is the introduction of the big three and the Yakuza arc, which I'm super excited about. But we'll get to that. It opens up with it kind of started in the last volume where they left off, and it finishes with the Bakugo Midoriya fight outside the school. Where Bakugo, if y'all been listening to us talk about it or watched the show, you know that he is like just the rival, the main character, Midoriya. He's been constantly fed up with All Might, the number one hero, and giving Midoriya his attention. He doesn't know why, because he doesn't know their whole history. And they finally like, you know what? Step outside. We're just going to fucking throw down. You got these new powers. He's been bullying him his whole life. And it was just a emotionally driven fight. It's one of my favorites in the series so far. And so that's just the beginning of the book. Then they get to school and they get introduced to the big three heroes, or the big three students, top three students of the school. And you don't really get to meet the other two in this volume, but you meet the number one guy, Mirio Togata, who is, I brought up the picture because I didn't remember his name. I mean, this looks like kind of like a buffer Tintin.
Right, yeah.
From the old series. And he is goofy, he is silly, and he is like his power, they call it, I don't know if I want to pronounce it right, permeation?
Yeah, permeation.
He can phase.
Oh, things. Nice. So he's kind of a Kitty Pryde type character.
In a sense, but the way they get into it is like, it's not just like, because, they talk about Shadowcat can phase through things, right? But they go into a little more detail than I remember X-Men ever really talking about her power. Like, he's not just like, I can shift through this table and I'm fine. When he activates his power, oxygen goes through him. Light goes through him. He is just literally falling into nothingness unless he can control his ability. So it's like they get into really detail about what it's like to phase through things. And basically, he was kind of talking about, he's considered the number one student in all the Hero Academy. And he's like, you know what, it's not always fun to talk about it. Let's just show you. And they take the entire first class, the main characters we've been following this entire time, and it's the entire class versus him. And he takes them all down.
Wow.
Efficiently.
Doesn't he do it naked?
Well, at first, because he's not paying attention, he kind of activates his power, his clothes fall off, so he has to put his pants back on. And they show him, teleporting. And they're like, well, we know he can phase, because, when you first meet him, he's, literally halfway through a wall talking to Midoriya. Literally, though, he would disappear, sink down, and then all of a sudden he's behind them. And they're just like, well, you said we know you phase, but teleporting's not the thing. After he whooped them all, beat every single student. He's like, well, I've kind of figured out something about my quirk. When I phase, I go into the ground. When I deactivate my power, two objects can't occupy the same space, so I'm pushed out. And he learned how to direct that. It's just taking that simple power and making him a fucking beast.
That's badass.
I mean, It's essentially what they did with Luffy with Mr. Fantastic's power.
Exactly. Yeah. This is why My Hero is on that One Piece level of taking we're not saying mundane because phasing was a pretty cool power.
Right, yeah, for sure.
And to show what you can do with it with creativity.
Well, so my question to that would be, and this may not be something that you guys even know yet, it may be something that the story unfolds. So when you look at comics and when you look at history, phasers, one of the things that they do is that the big threat is they I'll unphase with my hand inside your chest.
Right.
I can kill you this way. Or if you're Nightcrawler and you phase into a wall, you get stuck. It doesn't sound like he has that problem, but I wonder because like his thing is two objects can't occupy the same mass, can't occupy the same space. The physics of it all. I wonder if he unfazed with his arm inside them, if it would do any damage to them.
Well, he kind of using his ability, he kind of does that, but it's not like the sense of like melding, like the fear, like in like Marvel Comics usually does with theirs at least, because he actually like he phased through their stomachs, and I want to say they kind of described it where like at the last minute he cuts off his power so his arms push through like a full on punch. And it felt like they were completely gut punched and winded. That's what he took them all down.
Okay.
All he did was gut punch the entire class.
But it's not necessarily lethal.
Not at all.
Very cool.
But, and like it's really cool when he's explaining about his power. He's like, "This is how I have to think." Like, like you see Shadowcat walk through a wall all damn day, like it's no big deal. He explains, like, "Okay, so I had to learn, like, okay, turn my power on all through my body except my right leg, so I don't sink through the earth." As he steps through the wall, he's like, you see him just turn it off his power in certain sections of his body. He had to learn how to do that. So it was like this very cool way of how they're explaining his power. And like you see, and they mentioned after he's just standing over all the huddled over bodies of the entire first class. He's not this kid is not just the number one in school. He's potentially the number one in all of Heroes,
right?
Because he's a monster, and he's super friendly. He's a quirky character, like most of them are. And you get to see the other top two, but you don't get into them in the volume. So that was like a very cool introduction to like the big three of the entire school.
What volume was that?
14.
Because that's where I'm at.
Where you need
I remember all of that, right. So I know that I need to start on 15.
Oh, there you go. And buy the rest anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to start buying the volume.
Yeah, 14 where they introduced the big three, and then they cut over to the Villain Society, and they're meeting up with this guy who we eventually learn is called Overhaul, and they're basically like you wouldn't even if you know about Japanese culture, crime, but this is a world of heroes. Where you're like, okay, a league of villains. That's completely normal. Of course, people are going to be called the villains. But you forget that there was an organized crime before in the real world known as the Yakuza, or Mafia in Japan. And in this world, like, that's not really heard of as much because everyone started donning costumes and being, Super Dr. Doom and all that kind of stuff. And they introduced Overhaul, and he is part of he is Yakuza, and that still means something even in this world. Because, you have villains who will team up for a common cause to hate a certain hate a similar hero. Mm-hmm. But this is still just straight up family-based organized crime.
Nice.
And he is a monster, and he's got loyalty backing him up. And so and that just starts off. This is the beginning of a super long arc that is just amazing. You see all these new characters, you see growth in all the kids that we've been seeing so far. And this is the jump off point of this current arc. And
very cool.
It's stuff I've already read once because I read online because I want to read the current issues, but I'm buying them and I'm loving reading them again.
Nice. Well, it sounds like that actually sounds like something I want to read. Like, it sounds like something I would actually love to read.
I have all the volumes.
I may have to hit you up when I catch a break.
You got 12 more volumes to go before you get there, pal.
I can make it.
You've read one.
I've read the first one, yeah.
We're telling you, man, like the character development and everything in that series is fantastic.
And like I said, I understand, especially with learning your tastes in comics and books over the years I've now known you. I can get why this one wouldn't necessarily strike you right off the bat. But it's also, and you gave One Piece 58 episodes, and it still didn't work out. But this one, I think, is really a lot more up your style. I think you'll get used to the arc. I know that was kind of a complaint, and his art tightens up in the later issues. Of course, like what I'm doing, you draw daily.
Yeah, man,
you only get better and better.
And even for me, like, because I started collecting by the volumes, and that says something. Because I first read this, like, whenever it was first coming out online and stuff, and I kind of fell off of it, and then I didn't really get hooked until like the third volume or so.
Right.
But yeah, it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic jumping on point, Craig.
Jumping back on.
Yeah. So at least where you're going to get back in there. Maybe eventually we'll get old Caleb back.
So honestly, I'm a comics fan. Yeah, some of my favorite characters have been around for almost 80 years at this point. Right. It's nothing for me. Like I think some comic readers are just we've trained ourselves to jump in the middle of things without needing to know everything. I'm not guaranteeing you I would get everything, but I could probably and may very well just go pick up this arc. Like I may borrow that from you just to look through it and see if it's something I like that does make me want to go back and do some back issue diving and back issue reading and stuff
and like the beauty of My Hero Academia, while granted it is a a big world and a unique world. I don't think it's One Piece level to where you can't just pick up
Right.
14. And, you may not know, like, okay, who are these characters? Why do they like them? A little wiki, and you're kind of caught up. Unlike One Piece, which is a rich, deep world. And
Right.
it kind of requires that backlog. My Hero, you start up a news, you can pretty much pick up almost any volume and you can jump in.
It's much more of a comic book feel than
Basically,
One Piece, which is like you said, a richer world where you have to know the backstories of so many things or you get lost.
Basically, once you know Midori and All Might's connection, you can pretty much roll.
Faux show.
Now, mentioning that and you checking it out and us knowing what you're into and everything like that, we mentioned, I think it was, second, third, Manga Ramen Gantz. I don't know if they told you, but they're about to start collecting those in omnibus. Is that something you're going to hop on?
Probably not at
Him
first.
and I are both going to be getting it, so if you want to borrow it,
I was going to say that's what I will probably do, and if I'm so moved by what I read, I will definitely grab the omnibus.
I absolutely feel,
I don't think they'll be coming out until October.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think we got a little ways until it comes out. But,
if I'm buying any omnibus, and I am buying an omnibus of anything right now that has to do with manga, it's either going to be Lone Wolf and Cub, or it's going to be Junji Ito's the
Frankenstein.
Hang on that one. But Uzumaki, the Spiral, I want that, and like in the volume that you gave me.
And the hardcovers are super slick. You have all of them.
They're pretty.
That's the one he borrowed.
I need that on my shelf. That's
great shelf porn.
In the words of Jason Wood, that's shelf porn, dog. What'd you read this week, Jerry?
Yeah, so I read a comic. Like I said earlier, I was actually going to do Brimstone, but I read Infinity Wars, I read Prime last week, and I kind of feel like it needs to be talked about. We did already discuss another event that's going on. This one was really great. It had fantastic artwork. It's Jerry Dugan, Mike Deodato. Is it Mike Deodato? How do you say it, Caleb? Deodato. Mike Deodato Jr.
And if you're offended, by the way, Jerry just brutalized your name for 30 seconds straight, feel free to come to this podcast and fight us about it.
It was only 15, first of all. And Frank Martin. So I'm going to spoil Prime for sure in this book.
Spoilers. Spoiler.
I won't spoil the thing that happens at the end of this. I'm just going to leave it to people to pick up. If I do the second issue of this, I'll probably spoil it because you've had a month at that point, or is this coming out every 2 weeks? Or something?
I'm not sure.
I think it might be every 2 weeks.
I would think every couple of weeks.
So, and I didn't read the lead up to it, the road to, or whatever they called it, because I didn't know what it was going to be at first. I wasn't super. So that pretty much led into them creating a new Infinity Watch, which are people that are the keepers of the Infinity Stones.
Right.
They actually made a pretty good comprehensive list of who has what. They also kind of did it like a movie, and they put the cast, like the characters that are going to be in it. I don't think that you need to do that because there's a character in here that was super obscure that I would have been so stoked about if I didn't know he was going to be in it at first. It didn't lower my expectations.
You can just not read all of that and then start reading the book and then go back later and go, okay, who were all those people?
So your holders of the stones are Captain Marvel has a reality gem, Adam Warlock has a soul gem, Turk Barrett, who I have he's a villain, some kind of monster.
From
Daredevil.
It's that
Okay,
character.
that's who that's supposed to be. I knew the name sounded familiar, but it wasn't clicking.
Yeah, if you watch Netflix's Marvel stuff, Turk is a repeating character who jumps in and out of a couple different series. He's all over the place.
Well, he's got the mind gem, which is kind of
that's terrifying.
Doctor Strange has a time gem. Expected. Black Widow has space, and Star-Lord has the power. So if you think about this, if you go around, all of these characters are on Earth right now, except for Star-Lord. So you have you have 5 Infinity Gems out of the 6.
Never learn.
Yeah.
I never learn.
So we found out in the last issue that the Soul Gem had part of Gamora's soul in it, and there was something going on, like Adam Warlock and Doctor Strange, I'm going to get it here in a minute, they actually go into the world of the Soul Gem, and there's some fucked up shit going on, and Doctor Strange has to use a time gem to go back in time and stop him from going inside of it. So they're having this big gathering. when when Turk pulls up, he has a cast of villains with him. Tombstone's there, Bullseye's there, Sandman's there, and the Spot's there. And the Spot was the character that I was like, whoa, he's still a thing. I'm so happy that he doesn't have any speaking lines in this, but I'm props to them for using the Spot, because I haven't seen him since Spider-Man the Animated Series. So everybody gets to Earth, and they're getting ready to have this meeting. Doctor Strange is pretty much trying to talk them all into, hey, this is dangerous to have all the stones in one place at one time. And he's trying to convince everybody we need to send them off planet, like out in the far reaches of the galaxy and everything. At that point, Turk is like, no, that's not going to do it for me. So Doctor Strange gets I think it's the reality and the time gem to kind of see what all's going on out there, and that basically reveals to them that Thanos is dead. So in the Prime issue,
how the fuck does that work?
In the Prime issue, well, they're just kind of like looking at what is going to, what's coming after them.
Right.
I don't know those gems.
They were searching for the biggest threat for them. So, and of course, their initial thought is Thanos.
Yeah. And when they get there, they see a headless body. So at the end of the Prime issue, Thanos he knows that this meeting's going down, and he's assembling all of his troops and everything. And this character comes up behind him and stabs him right through the back. And when he turns around, they're cloaked. They have this big sword, and he says some stuff, dubs them like the Requiem of Death or something, and then they chop off his head.
Thanos is dead.
Thanos is dead, which is kind of interesting when you think about it because of how Donny Cates' Thanos series.
I was just going to bring that up, and not knocking the book, but when you just do an amazing series where the gist of it is that only Thanos can beat Thanos, that's.
But if you think about it, that future where he was one and everything had disintegrated. That time had gone, so that could explain him
an
dying.
Alternate reality.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I mean, alternate realities. So in the meantime, you get Loki. He was like a low-key part of the first book.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
He was a low-key Loki.
Yeah, exactly. So he was essentially, maybe you can help me with that, but he was in the Asgardian library.
Yeah.
And he was trying to look up stuff on himself, but he was finding a lot of errors in his story. And then he found a book that pages were ripped out of it. And the woman who's the keeper of all these books, Floa, she was pissed about this because nobody should be touching these books except for her. And, people that want to check them out, nobody should be destroying
librarians are hardcore, man. I'm friends with a couple.
So
fuck your shit up.
They, in order to find out what's going on with reality and everything, they go to the Quarry of Creation. My first experience with this was in Jeff Lemire's Thanos stuff, and it's actually where he went to get because he was basically dying and powerless. So he found these three witches that were here. And you essentially jump into this giant, crazy crater of gods, and it consumes you, and it makes you live out something in your mind. And if you overcome the challenge, then you come back more powerful. So Loki and Floa get here, and Loki starts talking to these witch sisters, and he's trying to tell them I need answers, and they immediately silence him and say infinity's end is here, and they just burst into flames essentially, which actually was kind of funny because Floa was like, oh, do ladies often self-immolate to avoid you? And I just that kind of killed me a bit. And then a portal opens up and someone falls out of it, and it's Loki from another universe. But he's burly like Thor. He has Mjolnir. And he has all 6 of the Infinity Gems. And so our Loki's already trying to plot against him. And he's got a knife drawn on him whenever he's turned around because he hates this fucking guy. Because it's everything that he wants to be, essentially. And Floa promptly reminds him, you shouldn't take those Infinity Gems because they won't work in this universe. So they have like a kind of funny little spout about how this Loki's better than, their universe, and he gets sucked back into his universe fighting with his Avengers and everything, and they're fighting some kind of crazy tentacle monster. And
Hashtag tentacle gang.
Yeah. So that's all they really go through in that. Whenever they get back over to the Infinity Watch, they realize, I think it's Turk who realizes that Star-Lord, they think that Star-Lord's trying to deceive him because he's supposed to have the power gem. And he's like, you don't have the power gem. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's in this case. And they open it, and it's a hologram.
Oh.
And he's like, oh shit. And they burst into fight. The other Avengers.
They burst into fight.
They burst into fight. Everybody starts fighting. Iron Man and Thor come. Somebody says, what is it? Oh, Turk with his mind gem says, there's a threat up above. And you see Iron Man and Thor coming down, and you're like, oh shit, they're coming. And then Iron Man gets hit with something, and he goes falling, and Thor catches him. And then this Requiem character shows up and is just beating the holy fuck out of everybody. And like Drax runs up to them, and they just swing the sword, and he just goes flying through a building and everything. And Rocket jumps up and shoots him in the face. And then it reveals who it is. I'm not going to spoil it, but I will say that it's like if you're following along with the story, it'll become more obvious. And it turns out that they have the power gem, and they put it into this crazy sword that they used to decapitate Thanos with.
Is it Howard the Duck?
It's not.
Then I don't fucking care.
But they also have on this suit that they're wearing, they have spots for the rest of the Infinity Gems.
All right.
And the last panel is this character stabbing Star-Lord through the chest, impaling him.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I want it to be Howard the Duck.
It's not.
Damn it.
Deal with it. You should have read fucking Cosmic Ghost Rider this week.
I didn't.
Because that book is fucking hilarious. So, yeah. There's crazy shit going on with the Infinity Gems. You have this character that's showing up that's essentially collecting them for their own purposes and killing off characters left and right.
Craziness. Now, you said this is a limited series too? It's not a...
Yeah, it's just an event that's going on right now. The one that I'm pretty excited because they're doing a Infinity Warps series coming out, and I'm really looking forward to that.
I don't read a lot of the cosmic stuff, so
I don't read the cosmic stuff either. I'm reading this one.
Because Donny Cates.
Right. And it's fucking amazing.
Nice. Well,
it really and truly is.
Gentlemen, do we have any honorable mentions for the week?
Brimstone. And Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Okay.
If Law and Order is your jam, check out Batman 52.
Yeah, I think so.
52. Immortal Hulk.
Dun, dun.
I haven't read that one yet.
It's really fucking good.
On my stack. I
want
had
a week where Caleb didn't get to the Hulk book first.
Nope, have not. It's been I had a very large paper due this week, so I've been working on that. The Adventures of Super Sons #1 came out this week. I love Super Sons. It's a great series. It's one of my, even though it's not quote unquote an all ages series, it is a book that I will let my nieces read. So lots of fun. I'm glad to see those kids back. Had a great time reading it. So that would be my honorable mention of the week. Anything else, guys? We ready to kind of move to the next little portion of this little shindig we call a show?
I believe so.
All right. Well, guys, before we move into our getting ahead of ourselves section, I didn't want to do this at the front of the show because it is kind of a solemn thing and bring everybody down. A very good friend of mine and a very good friend of our show, he listens to the episodes and he's on our Facebook groups, suffered a pretty tragic loss this week, and I don't want to get into what it is because that's his business, but I am going to say his name because the tragedy they suffered, they were not prepared for, and it comes with a lot of expenses. Funerals are not cheap. And so they have set up a GoFundMe to help cover some of the costs of this. His name's Robert Hafferman. I love this gentleman to death. He's a wonderful human being. And I'm going to be sharing their GoFundMe to raise the funds to pay for the funeral expenses for this family member who has passed away of theirs. So I just want to throw that out there on the show, mainly because he probably will listen to this, and I want him to know that we love him, and we are sending our deepest condolences out to him. And if there's anything you need, brother, holler at us. We'll do everything we can to help you guys out, including sharing this GoFundMe page. And if you have a little, if you have a lot, $5, it doesn't matter. It goes a long way. It's the thought in large ways that counts. So, all right, now that we're going to get past that, getting ahead of ourselves. I'm going to kick this off, and I'm going to get way ahead of myself. This is actually not coming out next week. It's coming out, I think, somewhere around October is when this comes out. And this is, I think Sean's going to get extremely happy to hear me say this. There's a hardcover coming out that I'm buying, like flat out, sight unseen buying. It's 408 pages. It's going to be about $22.99. Junji Ito is drawing and writing Frankenstein.
Yes, he is.
Frankenstein's, I consider it to be one of the great American horror stories. And Bernie Wrightson has done one of my favorite renditions of this in his style. Because of you, I fell in love with Junji Ito's art.
You're welcome.
And I'm buying this book. Again, it's in the previews catalog, which also came out this week, and that's where I saw it at. Again, not coming out till October, but I would be remiss if I didn't just jump the gun on this one and tell all of our listeners, all of you guys out there, you want this. I don't care if you don't read manga as a general thing in your life. You want this book. It is going to be fantastic. Junji Ito is a master of the craft, and I would encourage you to go to your local comic shop, your online comic retailer, do something. I'd start walking until October, and then get to a store and then buy it then. It's going to be amazing.
So the week before that book comes out, Sean will be like, this is the book that's on my looking forward, and then we'll cut in this segment. That's all I'm doing. Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Hey, dude, I mean, you've got me shilling manga now, so, at some level, mission accomplished.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
My book for next week is actually something that I haven't been picking up that has got me super excited. Sideways. Sideways number, was it 7? Is coming out. It's one that Craig's talked about for a while. A lot of other people have been talking about it. I've been reading from the Dark Knight's metal stuff. I've been reading Terrifics and Brimstone. I got the first issue of this, but I never got around to reading it, so I need to pull it out and read other stuff. The whole thing that's got me excited about this, though, is he's going into the dark multiverse, and he's running into the Seven Soldiers. And if you've ever heard me talk about DC's Frankenstein, Seven Soldiers, Frankenstein is part of the Seven Soldiers. And I don't think that they've shown him in Rebirth yet, but I'm hyped about seeing him. And this might actually get me to go back and buy all the issues of Sideways and just stay
It's a really good series.
Yeah, and I went ahead and added myself to it because I'm going to assume that I'm just going to want to get it from here on out.
Well, I was looking for the new character from Teen Titans, in issue number 1 of Sideways was reprinted in the Teen Titans oversized book from Walmart, so it's out there to be able to be read for sure. So
yeah,
I knew he was in it.
Yeah.
The book I'm looking forward to next week is Unnatural, Volume 2.
Oh, nice.
It's the book I talked a while back about it's the one with the animal people basically living that world where they're forced into a breeding program and they don't get married by 25. They're not interspecies, and same-sex marriages are completely banned because that does not forward the species. And this one is issue 2. Description they got put out is while Leslie's life has been turned upside down by that message, if you remember, I talked about she got the message going, she's now in the breeding program because she turned 25. Her best friend Trish goes on a hunt to discover what lies beneath her unnatural and yet attractive reoccurring dream. Oh, and who's the mysterious hooded figure spying on her? We'll find out on the 8th.
You kind of sold me on this when you talked about it. I love it.
It's beautiful art, and it is a reprint. Like, I don't know if anyone out there listening follows Italian comics. This was put out in 2016. And it's just images now translated and brought it over. It's beautiful art. It's an interesting story. Like I said, it does use the cartoon animal, anthropomorphic animal characters.
And that sold me in
But
itself.
and it really fits in for the whole, like, as we talked about before, like the whole, like, you have, get married by 25. You can't interspecies breed because that makes, abominations. It's very topical and not hiding what it's talking about. It's a damn good book.
Nice.
So the book I'm really looking forward to is Sandman Universe. Cy Spurrier's writing it with Jay Lee doing the art, and Ilquis Evely is on it. I'm not sure if that's how you say their name.
I've heard her on other podcasts, and you nailed it.
Oh, okay, great.
But she can still come on the podcast, right?
I didn't mean to steal your thing. I'm sorry.
No,
Want to invite her on.
No, so I'm really excited about this book. You guys all know I'm a huge Sandman fan. It's probably my
really?
Yeah, it's my number one comic book of all time, in my opinion. The thing I'm confused about is the cover shows original Sandman and not Daniel that took over. So I don't know where it takes place in because maybe you guys don't know, but spoilers, somebody else took over being Sandman at the end of Sandman. He took over all of his memories and everything. It's the same being, but it's a different body.
He showed up not too long ago.
In Overture.
Okay.
Yeah. Overture was about him.
Well, no, I want to say was it in Rebirth?
Yes. Okay. So no, it was the best part of Metal.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
That it had Daniel in it. Daniel is Sandman in it.
So no word if this is like a reboot or. I've never honestly. I have one Sandman trade, and it's only because the Final Fantasy artist painted it. But like it's very like just mind bending, like alternate like reality kind of view.
It's not alternate reality, but it's a very mind bending, very deep, rich world that you really have to dig into and get into. But it's one of those things that stuff that happens in the first couple of issues come back in the end of the fucking story to play itself out.
It's Neil Gaiman. And this stuff like this influenced people like Hickman hard.
Yeah.
He's that person that shows you a feather in issue 1, and that feather is the world-breaking cataclysm in issue 47 and a half.
And so what this isn't a reboot. What they're doing is they're reopening this universe that he plays in. And
I'm just trying to figure out about the original Sandman on the cover.
It may have just been the cover,
right?
Who knows? Maybe they're just trying to draw in people by putting him on the cover. But really, the only difference in looks is what they wear and the color of their hair. Original Sandman wears black with black hair. New Sandman wears white with white hair.
Right? Yeah.
That's the main difference. Otherwise, it's the same character.
Wow. Well, all right, guys, we're ready to bring this thing home.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Hey out there, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed our latest issue, episode 31 issue. I'm three quarters of a bottle of wine in, so this has been fantastic. I hope you like what you've heard. We all do. If you have, please feel free, feel encouraged, if you will, to go and leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell people you don't like. Hell, go for that. Tell them to come listen to us, man. Word of mouth does great things. You can always come and join us on our Facebook page, the Southern Pride Geekery podcast on Facebook, obviously, because that's where Facebook is. You can also come hang out with us on Instagram and Twitter. It's at sfgpodcast.com. You can email us, because that's a thing people do. southernpridegeekery@gmail.com. And you know what? You can go on our YouTube channel and click share and send our little YouTube. You won't be able to, there's no video element. It's just our beautiful, gorgeous, amazing voices week after week. And you know what? That's pretty goddamn cool. So,
how's that P.O. box coming so they can send a snowmail?
I don't know, but we're going to set up a PayPal. You dump stuff into that.
Damn right.
Daddy needs some shoes.
First Church of Southern Pride Geekery will be in session.
The High Priest Craig Lance and Lower Priest Caleb officiating your life and spiritual needs week after week on this, your podcast. Well, if nothing further, guys, this has been a pleasure. Go forth, love some comics.
Yeah.